podcast. Even though today is a Sunday, well, we're the highlight of Sunday nights. We're always going to be the highlight of Friday nights, but today we're going to be the highlight of Sunday. Hope everyone's enjoying a fantastic day. I am Sports PSP. Alongside me, I got the panel with me. To my gentleman on the right, he is one half of the Georgia Bulldogs. He is Mr. Atlanta Hawks, Braves, Falcons. The list goes on and on. A girl dad. He is a wonderful father, wonderful friend, wonderful person, knowledgeable, and baseball season is coming. So take the time to please listen to him, the one and only BRF Sports. How you doing, man?
Life is good, man. Shout, man. Let me tell you something. Your intros for me are like are so good now, and it's an honor to share the stage with y'all. It's always an honor to share the stage with y'all. Yeah, over the last like couple of weeks, so life's been lifing a little bit, but and at the end of the day, it's good. I'm kind of getting back on track with things. Work's going good. Yeah, like baseball season's coming around the corner. WBC, World Baseball Classic, is in full gear, and I've been having a blast keeping track of it. Highlights everything. Like I don't care what anybody says. The WBC is slowly becoming one of the premier tournaments, sporting wise, in the world. If y'all aren't watching WBC, y'all need to watch it because it is it is quality sporting. So y'all need to be watching that. But hey, I missed y'all, brothers, man. I miss sharing the stage with y'all these last couple weeks, boy. How y'all living?
We doing good, and shout out to the wonderful and beautiful Kia, the die-hard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Please go check her out. Follow her content creation. Follow her sports betting. Man, she knows her sports. Also, too, shout out since it's March. Happy Women's Month.
Yes.
Happy Women's Month. Make sure
Exactly.
to all the beautiful women out there, moms, sisters, aunts, nieces, grandmas, whoever, thank them. Thank them for everything. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your encouragement. And Kia, no doubt about it, we love you. And also, too, shout out to Mama PSP and also the great D, the beautiful D. Hopefully, you get to see you soon. And of course, we cannot do the Sports PSP podcast without my main man on the left. He is the one half of the Georgia Bulldogs, all the way down from Columbus, Georgia. He is the Al Roker of journalism, the young Charles Barkley, the young Mark Henry, the young Shaquille O'Neal. He's funny, comical, hysterical. Sunday, let the church say amen. Or he's probably with that other reverend, with that beautiful girl telling him to get her butt out the window. The one and only, the beautiful, wonderful, talented, undisputed world champ. How you doing, brother?
I cannot. I cannot. I can't. I have got to stop hanging out with you. I got to stop hanging out with y'all. I got to stop hanging out. Y'all are wild. Y'all are wild. Damn. I can't even recover from some shit like this. Oh, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Life is good. Been going to a lot of Hawks games as of lately. Uh,
They
Yeah.
winning. You might keep going. They winning.
yeah, they 5-1 when I show up, so I got to
Six
keep
straight.
up.
They are the hottest team in the league. 6 straight wins.
Yeah,
Whatever's going on is working.
yeah, and look, shout out to that trade they did for Jonathan Kaminga, man. That is what happens when you take the time to develop a talent. And I think that I know it's probably not going to happen this show, but a lot of discussions I will be discussing how Steve Kerr is more Phil Jackson than he is Greg Popovich. Because hey, when you think about the teams that Phil Jackson have been on, it's been more so a finishing job rather than a building job. The Chicago
Mm.
Bulls, the first iteration of the LA Lakers, the second iteration of the LA Lakers, that was more of a finishing job. When Steve Kerr came in, the team was already there. It was more of a finishing job rather than a building job. And they got even more when Kevin Durant came in. So I think it's going to be a lot of discussions to be saying, hey, not only is Greg Popovich one of the greatest coaches of all time because he's able to develop talent and put those talents where they need to be, but when you talk about Phil Jackson and Steve Kerr, are they more finisher coaches rather than building coaches? I think that's a discussion that has to be had. I will be discussing that later on TikTok and PSP. I think that has to be a discussion one day. Maybe not one day soon, but maybe
But
one
doesn't
day.
that tell you a lot more about Mark Jackson being the architect for the Golden State Warriors? After
It
all, he
gives
was the one
it
who
gives them
said
a
that Steph
yeah.
Curry and Klay Thompson were the greatest shooting backcourt.
Yeah, and it also lead it like I said, I think the biggest what if in NBA history is what if Klay Thompson and Harrison Barnes would have gotten traded to the Timberwolves for Kevin Love. I think
Mm.
that would have rearranged everything. Because remember that trade was the place until Jerry West said, "No, if you do that, I'll quit." So there's
Right,
a lot
because he
of
was that high on Klay Thompson.
exactly probably because his father because he knew what his father could do because his father was a
Michael
Laker.
Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Thompson was a Laker, and I believe he was very, very high on him that way. But there's a lot of discussions that has to be had as far as greatest coach of all time because just because you have the most rings as a coach doesn't necessarily mean that you are the evaluator of talent, not to mention the developer of talent that you need to be. There was three people don't realize that during Greg Popovich's reign as coach, there was three transitions. It was the Twin Towers version of the Spurs, the Big Three version of the Spurs, and then he won one with an unorthodox version of the Spurs with Kawhi Leonard, Tiago Splinter, and a lot of the other guys, Patty Mills. So there was three iterations of them that he won with, and he was able to span that reign for over 2 decades.
And not only that, he was a former executive before he became the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. And he's known for acquiring players, international players, and developing them.
Yeah,
So that's why I give a lot of love to Popovich. Phil Jackson, no one can take away or diminish what he was as a head coach. But remember, the triangle offense, that was Tex Winter. He implemented the offense. What Phil did do better than Popovich was learning how to manage egos. As you said, Champ, how even though, like in basketball, because it's predominantly black, like the master, learning how to be your own ego, learning how to be in control of yourself, learning how to discipline and handle so many egos. Phil did a
yeah,
great job with that. Pop, you can also say that as well because Pop does come from a military background himself. He's no nonsense. And like I said, one of the reasons why I love about Pop, he is adamant. And he's not afraid to say whatever is on his mind. And he is no nonsense. And look at the coaching tree. I mean, from Budenholzer to Ime Udoka, Mike Brown, Becky Hammond. I mean,
yes,
you've got some damn good coaches that have come from your coaching tree that have learned from the great Popovich. Even Tim Duncan has even stepped in as like an assistant coach.
yes.
So
Oh yeah, Tiago Splinter.
yes,
Tiago Splinter,
who took
one of his
over?
former players. Yeah,
Yes, there you go. So that tells you a lot about Greg Popovich as well. Like I said, the San Antonio Spurs during that time, they were like the New England Patriots back in them days. They weren't they weren't. I mean, they were a team that people did not like because again, they played in a small market, San Antonio, Texas. A lot of the older guys. I mean, compared to the rest of the other teams in the NBA, they weren't the flashy, more spectacular. But man, they know how to play team ball. They know how to win. It's conducive to winning championships.
I want to make a quick point before we get the show on the road. Since we're talking about Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson, I have a really good analogy that I thought about with Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson, and I kind of want to take it to the entertainment realm, to the rap game realm. When I think about Popovich and Phil Jackson, it's kind of like it's almost like a it's like a preferential thing. It's like the Biggie and Tupac debate. Like, which one would you rather have? Like, which one is better at what? When you look at Biggie, it's always the lyrical realm. You always say Biggie's the better lyricist of the two. He knows how to articulate. He can articulate. He can put wordplay. He puts things together, unlike most, if not any rappers we've ever seen. Tupac's a storyteller. When something comes out his mouth, he knows how to put you in a situation where you're almost visualizing it yourself, kind of in a way. It's almost kind of like the best of both worlds with these two. When you look at Popovich and Phil Jackson, it's like when you want to look at it from a sports perspective, okay, who's the better X's and O's coach, and who's the better guy as far as like being able to get, you know, I'll say Popovich is the better X's and O's coach. He's the I'll say he's the better. I think he's the greatest X's and O's coach in the history of the league. I think he's better at X's and O's, and I think a part of that, what comes into the X's and O's, is the building. Is the development of talent, and I think that comes in the X and O's, and that's being able to kind of like cultivate your players, get them in the right situation in order for them to make plays, and allow them to be the best of themselves. With Phil Jackson, it's being able to manage the egos. It's being able to manage the superstar talent. Maybe not necessarily building the franchise, like what Champ said, kind of like being that cherry on top, like that missing piece. Because if you may have a good coach, but if he's got like a bunch of egos, he can be a great coach. But if he's not necessarily managing those egos, he could be the best X's and coach. He could be the best X's and O's coach in the world, but if he's not getting his guys behind him on the same page, it's not going to work. Phil Jackson, although he is a good X's and O's coach, being able to kind of get in the mindset of like a Shaq or a Kobe or a Mike and just, kind of get them on the same page with you, I think that's kind of what set Phil Jackson apart from a lot of the other coaches. I think he's the best we've ever seen as far as managing superstar egos. So it's kind of almost like a best of both worlds in terms of being a head coach. And I kind of look at it from an analogy of like a Biggie and Tupac thing. It's it's a preferential thing. Who's the best at who is your favorite? You can't go wrong either way. There's
Or
certain
Nas
aspects
versus
of,
Jay-Z.
exactly. That's another good one. It's almost like
Yeah.
it's like a preferential thing. It's like who would you prefer in certain situations? And I think that's Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson. Even though I think Greg Popovich is the overall better coach of the two, you're not going to go wrong with either way because they've both shown year in and year out they're winners.
And also depending on the situations as well, because not just with superstars, Dennis Rodman. You look
Exactly.
at how the way he managed Dennis Rodman, as you mentioned, Champ, during the time with the Chicago Bulls. Krause at the point, he wanted no parts of Dennis Rodman.
No.
But he looked at what Michael and Scotty, he looked at some of the people around him, including and particularly Phil. I mean, just look at the books. Phil Jackson wrote the book Maverick. Dennis Rodman wrote the book Bad as I Want to Be. I mean, if you hear from people who've read it, it's like the same book. So it depends on the type of situation. It depends on the type of flavor or food you want. You want waffles or you want pancakes? Or for ice cream, you want ice cream or you want vanilla? You want cookies? You want brownies? You can't go wrong with either way. But fellas, let's get to the pigskin. I know we got 6 months away from football, but man, some big moves that has happened. Max Crosby traded to the Baltimore Ravens in exchange for 2 first-round picks. To me, guys, I think the Ravens won this one. The Ravens, because you get a preeminent pass rusher to help out this team. Now, defensively, if you look at the Baltimore Ravens, with Zach Orr as their defensive coordinator last year, they were 24th place ranking in total defense. They were 18th in points allowed, 23.4 points per game, only 30 sacks last year for the Baltimore Ravens. I think with adding Max Crosby, you're going to get at least double-digit sacks. Do I think this is going to help the Ravens get to a Super Bowl? I don't know about that. I still believe, to me, the team is Denver. I truly believe had Bo Nix had played in that AFC Championship game, Denver would have advanced to the Super Bowl. You still can't ignore New England, especially with the cap situation that they're in. They've got a ton of money in cap space. We got to wait and see what's going on with Buffalo. Kansas City, again, I think there's slowly but surely they're making some good moves. They got back Eric Bieniemy. They traded Trent McDuffie. We'll talk about that later on in the show. They got themselves some draft picks. Hopefully they can try to use it to get the offensive line, as Champ has constantly lamented. But I do like that the Ravens won this one. I understand to Champ's point that with the Raiders, and he wants the Raiders to trade the number 1 overall pick because he doesn't want Fernando Mendoza to be subjected to the Raiders organization. But I'm like, look, Champ, the Raiders going to have to make a decision to see who's their guy or whatnot. You might as well draft him. We saw Baker Mayfield we saw Sam Darnold drafted by moribund franchises. Baker Mayfield, number one overall to the Cleveland Browns. Sam Darnold, third overall to the New York Jets. Fortunately for them, they turned it around. It told you a lot more about those organizations than it has to than them. And I think for the Raiders, look, Tom Brady is there. So now you're probably going to get Kenneth Walker because the Seahawks, they're perhaps moving on from him. The Raiders may get him. You talked about that scheme, how with Kubiak, how it's going to open the lanes for the running backs. Ashton Genty had 1,000 yards with not that much lanes. So imagine with him and a Kenneth Walker and with a Brock Bowers coming back, you need a type of quarterback. And even if you draft Mendoza with the number one overall pick, you don't have to throw him in the fire necessarily right away. He could sit and learn. Get you a veteran quarterback, and then eventually, when he's ready to go, he'll go. But I do think that the Ravens, they won this trade because they needed some type of guy on the defense. Um, they got to go back to their defensive ways. Boy, Mike McDonald was a huge loss for them. And you saw how the way Mike McDonald carried the Seattle Seahawks to their second Super Bowl. But I think the Ravens won this one because they get a preeminent pass rusher in Max Crosby. There were reports about him going to Dallas. Look, my thing is, Jerry wasn't going to do that. Jerry wasn't going to do it. So I think for the Ravens, they won this trade because I'm still leery about what the Raiders going to do with those 2 first-round picks. If you do get Mendoza, you better get yourself some O-line, and you better get yourself a pass rusher. So those are my thoughts. Whoever wants to go, who do y'all think won this trade?
I'll take this one first before BRL smokes me off the arena.
Bro, you know what you're talking about, boy. Do you think? Do you think?
But I think it's one hell of a trade for the Baltimore Ravens, man. Look, I don't think people understand the people who they're going to have coming back. They're going to have Roquan Smith coming back. You have Justin Metabupe, who is one hell of a defensive tackle. You have Kyle Vanoy. He's going to be back. So the attention is not going to necessarily be on Max Crosby. You're going to be able to put him with an already great defense as far as on paper is concerned and surround him with a lot of other great players. And he said his goal is to get them where? To a Super Bowl. So he already knows what's going to go on. I think they won this in the sense of you're going to add someone to an already on paper good defense. There was just a lot of injuries last year. You know, Mike McDonald was no longer with the team, so you saw the holes that he left in the scheme wise. But if they can get the scheme right, I really think that this is going to be one hell of a defense. Problem is this: you still have not addressed the number one most important thing on the offensive side of the ball. And what is that, ladies and gentlemen?
It's going to be your offensive line.
Thank you. You have to address that offensive line.
Not just offensive line. They also have to address the tight end situation because Isaiah Likely is more than likely probably leaving.
But yes. I think they re-signed. But I think they did re-sign Mark Andrews.
They re-signed Mark Andrews, but he's a little bit over the hill
in
the terms of football terms. But you know, you have somebody in the system for that long, they can play well past the prime of their years. But I really think they need to look at trying to bring in maybe a Tyreek Hill or someone who can be a prime target for Lamar Jackson. And they need to fix their offensive line because I don't know who number 77 is, but I remember Shannon Sharp talking about that guy.
On nightcap, yeah.
Good God.
Fafalele, I think is what his name. He was horrible.
There is no reason for you to be that big and be that sorry. You are you, in the great words of Major Payne, you still a shit sandwich, and you a soggy one at that. So
there was some bad offensive linemen at his size. Remember Eric Flowers?
Yeah, Robert Gallery, but
he at least got it together a little bit. I'll give Robert Gallery that he did get it together.
Yeah, when they finally moved Robert Gallery to guard, they finally got it together. But they still have a lot of holes in order to fix in that offensive lineman. With the offensive line, let's hope that this is the trade that puts them over the hump. Look. I don't think people understand this. Talent for the Baltimore Ravens have never been the problem. It's never been the problem. They have always been able. They are one of the best drafted teams probably ever. For them to transition from Joe Flacco, who was a Super Bowl winning quarterback, to now having Lamar Jackson, who's the MVP and a Hall of Famer at this point, that's nothing short of amazing. For them to go years without having a true quarterback and still been able to win a Super Bowl and then able to stay in Super Bowl contention, that's a short of amazing because of the talent that they were able to accrue. I think what worries me this year about the Baltimore Ravens is this: you don't have the offensive minds that you had on that team before. There is no Todd Monken. He's gone. There is no Harbaugh. He's gone. There's no Mike McDonald. He's gone. So a lot of the talent that was used to these particular systems are no longer there as far as coaching wise is concerned. They lost a lot of great coaches. Say what you will about Harbaugh, great coach. Say what you will about Todd Monken, great coach. Say what you will about Mike McDonald, Super Bowl winning, great coach. 2 out of 3 of the coaches that have left from this staff in the past 3 years are Super Bowl winning coaches. Harbaugh, Mike McDonald. And Mike McDonald may not be through winning Super Bowls. This may only be the beginning, depending on who they can bring back. So you don't have, it's not a question of talent. It's on the coaches now, and it's on the players at this point. Because how is the offense going to mesh without Todd Monken as that offensive mind, and without Harbaugh overseeing kind of that talent? How's the defense now going to be now that you have a new defensive coordinator? Now that you have a new head coach, now that you have a new offensive coordinator, everything is pretty much new at this point. So the coaching that was once there that stabilized this franchise for a long period of time, when you talk about Todd Monken, when you talk about Harbaugh, when you talk about McDonald, that's no longer there. So what are these new coaches going to do? I don't really think it's going to come down to talent. Talent has been something that the Baltimore Ravens has had an abundance of for the existence of their franchise going all the way back to 1996 when they first came into existence after they left Cleveland. So it's never ever been a talent standpoint. Right now, it's coaching.
Scheme.
What will the coaching do? What will the scheme do? How are you going to use all of these high-powered, what I like to say, toys that you're going to have? How you gonna make this? How you gonna turn this Christmas list into a great Christmas for the kids? How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna put Max Crosby in a situation where they have to block him and Justin Metabuke at the same time? How are you gonna put him in a situation where you're lining up Kyle Vanoy and you're lining him up right next to Max Crosby so they can't key in on him? So they have to. It's going to be either one or the other. How are you going to line all 3 of those guys up in the same area so they eat up a double team? That way, Raekwon Smith can come right in there on a stunt tackle. How are you going to do that? With Lamar Jackson, are you going to do a lot more read options? Are you going to be able to do a lot more passing?
You're
Is
probably
he
going to
going
have to
to
do
have?
more passing at Lamar at this point, champ, because Lamar's what, 29? Even
Yeah,
though you still want to maintain his athleticism, but at the same time, you've seen them injuries before, and he
yeah,
was nicked up last year. So my
yeah.
thing is, you don't want to run Lamar to the ground. But I was speaking to the big fella as well, Broad Sports. Shout out to Broad Sports. They still missing a weapon, so they need some help with the receiver tree. They do need another tight end, champ, because to your point, Mark Andrews, my Oklahoma brother, he's at the
He'll be
back
over
end
here.
of his career. So you better get somebody in the draft. Now, defensively, they loaded with Kyle Hamilton, Matabuke, Max Crosby, and them. I think their talent, they're loaded. It's just going to come down to the first year head coach, defensive coordinator. And again, should they win the division? Yes, they should win the division because if you look at Cincinnati, you talk about Baltimore's offensive line. What about Cincy's offensive line? And they still haven't addressed the defensive side of the football field. Todd Munkin, I like the fact that he's going to be in Cleveland to help out Shador. And Shador is Todd Munkin's type of guy. After all, when they first met in Cleveland, he was raving about Shador. He wanted to draft him. And plus, They better get Shador some type of weapons around him because they're going to move on from Njoku. You know, there were reports about them possibly getting Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
So they got to figure. So they're going to see with that. And with Pittsburgh, look, Mike Tomlin's no longer there. Mike McCarthy. Again, I think the only reason why they brought him there because Mike McCarthy is from Pittsburgh. He grew up a Steelers fan, and plus, it's the only way to try to convince Aaron Rodgers to come back to stay for another year in Pittsburgh. I think for Baltimore, they should win the division, but it's going to take them some time, champ. I think Denver, to me, is the team in the AFC with their defense, Sean Payton as a head coach. People say whatever you want about Bo Nix. He's not flashy or spectacular. At the end of the day, in the words of Alec Baldwin, ABC, always be closing. Whoever thought that Bo Nix, of all people, would outperform and outbeat Josh Allen in a divisional round, considering this was supposed to be the year for Josh Allen to come out the AFC. Am I lying? Because Patrick Mahomes, home like the rest of us, Lamar Jackson, home like the rest of us. This was going to be the perfect opportunity for Josh Allen to do that. And plus, we got to wait and see with Buffalo, and we'll talk about them just in a second. We got to wait and see how Joe Brady is going to be as the first-year head coach. And again, you let Sean McDermott walk out the door. I'm still surprised Sean McDermott is not a head coach yet. I don't know why. Someone will explain to me. But BRF.
I think, I do think Baltimore won this trade because of what I think Max Crosby is going to do as far as opening up that defense, not only with the pass rush, but when you have a really good pass rush, it always opens up your secondary. Your secondary is able to like really kind of dig in, and they're able to really cover better and make more plays because when your pass rush is being able to get pressure on the quarterback, you're speeding up the quarterback's clock. He's making off kilter throws. He's not staying on rhythm. More opportunities for interceptions. That really plays into the Baltimore Ravens' hands when you got someone like a Malachi Starks, when you got somebody like a Kyle Hamilton who can go two ball hogs, who can go get it at any moment's notice. So Max Crosby is really going to help the totality of that defense. I talked about that in my in one of my last TikTok videos that I made where I stitched one of my fellas. Shout out Jay Sport, shout out Josh. I made a stitch of one of his videos. He's not necessarily a fan of the trade. I don't mind the trade because when you look at the Baltimore Ravens and you look at how they performed as a defense last year, you brought up a lot of the stats. But the one that was really alarming, they were 31st in sack rate, 4.6%. As far as all like plays, 4.6% in sack rate. You're not getting anything done as far as getting to the quarterback. Max Crosby is going to help that immensely because he's going to take so much pressure off of Madubuike. He's going to take pressure off the linebacker core because now this is going to be on Jesse Minter, first-year head coach with the Baltimore Ravens. This is going to be on him as far as how to really draw up something schematically to really improve this front seven when you have the pieces there as far as like drawing double teams or eliminating double teams or allowing more one-on-ones for guys like Kyle Van Noy, guys like Mike Green, who you hope take a step in his second year being on this defense. So this is really going to be Jesse Minter's job to really cultivate this defense and create a scheme in order for them to really produce more and be better on that front seven. Now, we'll say this, though. From the Vegas Raiders side of this trade, they get Baltimore's pick, which is number 14.
Right.
I personally see them going offensive line with the 14th pick because they need it. They need it just as much as anybody. So I think it would make more sense for them to go offensive line at 14. I understand why, Champ, and I think I talked about it a little bit. I understand why, you might want to trade out of that number 1 pick in order to acquire draft capital, in order to build the depth chart up more. But at the same time, when you see someone like a Fernando Mendoza who's right there, you don't want to keep chancing it, and then you finally take the quarterback, and then he ultimately ends up sucking anyway because you made the wrong pick. I think you have to take the chance eventually, which is why if they were to draft Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 overall pick, I don't have a problem with it because ultimately at the end of the day, you have to nail your guy down. And like if he if you're doing your draft boards and you're doing your grades and you're doing your scouting and all of this, if Fernando Mendoza is your guy at number 1, just take him. I mean, if he doesn't give you any cause to pause, if he gives you no reason to doubt him as being the franchise guy who could come in and really right this ship, you take him and you don't ask no questions. You don't explain yourself. You move on to pick 14. You got 2 picks this round. You got the 2027 first from Baltimore as well. You don't explain yourself. You take him and you scout. You look at your offensive line. You look at your skill positions. I mean, me personally, I'm probably looking at that offensive line at 14. I mean, would I have a problem with them taking another, getting another weapon, like a receiver or somebody like that to take pressure off of Brock Bowers? Wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But I personally would like to see them go offensive line at 14 because ultimately what's having targets at the quarterback on his butt. I mean, come on, champ, give me that line, baby, give me that line.
Hey man, like I said, the lineman is the most important thing, and like I said, quarterback can't throw on his back.
There it is.
Look, I'm gonna just be real. Speaking of quarterbacks and being on your back, if I'm Joe Burrow with all of these pass rushers that's in my damn division,
I'm praying
you
to
got
God every
this
day.
year in order to say you can protect me. You got this year with everybody coming back to say that you can protect me.
You got to deal with TJ Watt. You got to deal with Max Crosby. And you got to deal with Myles Garrett.
Again, and that's just the guys and those are just the big names you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the interior.
Exactly. That ain't including Justin Metabupe and all of those guys. So
Mason Graham with Cleveland was starting to come on a little bit second half of last year.
Exactly. So you have this year in order to say you can protect me, because I don't think the Cleveland Browns are going to be a factor this year, although they will be much improved. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be much of a factor this year because you don't have a Mike Tomlin that's going to be able to clean up all the deficiencies of a team going down the stretch. Mike McCarthy is a good coach, but he's not Mike Tomlin good, where he's going to be able to overcome the fact that you may have a bad quarterback, a bad defense, a bad running game, and everything like that to at least get you to the playoff. I don't think Mike McCarthy is that kind of coach. So it's going to be us, and it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. So you have this year and this year alone to say, hey, I can protect you. We can get back to a Super Bowl. I can keep you on your feet for at least the majority of the season, for at least 14 games. If you don't, you might as well get on the phone right now and start asking for 3 first-round picks, because I'm hauling behind up out of there.
Well, you've been saying that Joe Burrow should do what Carson Palmer did, which is retire, then come out of retirement, and then go for somewhere else.
Exactly.
That's what you've been saying that. And
yeah,
to your credit,
but you have this year in order to prove that, because like I stated, if you really want me to be honest, the AFC North is going to be a 2-man race, Cincinnati and Baltimore. You have this year to prove that, hey, you could get me some protection. You could get me, and at least give me a comparable defense, so I don't have to go out here and score 55 points a game. You have this year.
And I'm telling you, Champ, I'm telling you, sooner or later, Burrow's gonna get up out of here. Because at the end of the day, do you trust the Bengals organization? Do you trust Mike Brown, given how cheap he is as an owner?
No, he hasn't built an offensive line up to this point. So why are we trusting him now? And I mean, the only reason why we're even looking at the Cincinnati Bengals from a standpoint of being able to contend with the Baltimore Ravens in this division is how that offense regularly lights up Baltimore.
You even did it with Joe Burrow out and Joe Flacco, 40 years old.
You look at this off. Exactly. You look at this offense year in and year out. These Ravens Bengals games are never defensive dominated games. They are always shootouts. Always shootouts, because the Bengals are just able, for some reason, the Cincinnati Bengals, and you, like you said, it's no matter who plays quarterback, they always know how to attack the Baltimore Ravens secondary. They know how to pressure them, especially when you got a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins. They know how to put pressure on them. I mean, they're arguably the best receiving duo in the league. They know how to pressure them. These games are never defensive slugfests. They're always shootouts. So this is the reason why we're even saying Cincinnati's got a shot at this division, because they know how to slaughter the Baltimore defense on a basically year in year out basis. They always know how to play.
Healthy.
Exactly. The main thing is Burrow staying healthy. Exactly.
Because again, if Burrow keeps getting hit like this, sooner or later, I hate to say this, he's going to be remembered more Andrew Luck, and that's going to be a travesty. Because again, they drafted him with the #1 overall pick. He's a native kid out of the state of Ohio. Only reason why he's staying in Cincinnati because you paid him the money, and plus his two top targets, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, getting their money and their bread.
Yeah.
It's just that
Mm-hmm.
Steelers. I think for the Steelers, I don't trust Mike McCarthy at this point. I don't. At this point, look, you're replacing Mike Tomlin. You went from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy. Okay, we're gonna see how the Steelers are with Mike McCarthy. Although I think Mike McCarthy later in his years in Dallas, he did a good job, particularly in 2023, as far as with the play calling.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Cleveland, that's going to be a team to excite me because I want to see how because Shador and Todd Monken, their relationship, their rapport, it seems like Shador Sanders is in a situation to succeed because of the coach Todd Monken. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but Kevin Stefanski never really gave me the belief that he really liked Shador Sanders. Not saying that he wanted him to fail or sabotage or anything, but Todd Monken, you saw when he arrived at Cleveland, Shador is his type of guy. And I think if they surround Shador with some more pieces around him, I think with Cleveland, hey, you got yourself a quarterback. And besides, at this point, do you want to trust Deshaun Watson at this point? Given at this point in his career, I'm sorry. And again, champ, you bring up all the social media. You bring up his social media with, look, you got on me for Ben Simmons, for Ben Simmons stealing money. Deshaun Watson lately, these past couple of years, been stealing money because just like Ben Simmons, you bring up their social media. How it's nothing to do with their sport. How it's to do with Instagram, has to do with the houses, the cars, the clothes, everything else. So
This should not. This should not. I've seen like a lot of reports saying that Cleveland's going to lean towards Deshaun Watson. That for the 2026 season as a starter quarterback. This should not be handed to Deshaun Watson. If anything, let them compete for the job. And if Shador shows you something to want to roll with him as a starter, let him be the starter. At least let it be an open competition. Do not hand it to Deshaun Watson because if you hand it to Deshaun Watson, that's 2 strikes on you already because he cannot be trusted.
there you go. But fellas, let's talk about the Rams. They traded Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams. Kansas City Chiefs, they traded to get Trent McDuffie. I can't remember exactly what Kansas City got. They got, I think I got it right here. They reading off my notes and stuff. They got a 29th pick, a 5th and a 6th round pick, and a 2027 third round pick. That's what the draft picks Kansas City gets.
That's a nice little haul.
My thing is, in the words of Miss Pat, shout out to the beautiful Miss Pat, the great comedian. You know how anytime she's like, man, fuck them kids. Well, that's how Los Angeles Rams are.
That's
man,
how they feel about
fuck
them
them
picks.
And that's exactly what was so funny about what you said. He wore that damn shirt at the Super Bowl when he was there.
He did wear that shirt at the Super Bowl.
Because look, if you really look at it, they haven't really had the draft in the first round. All of those
No, they
guys
haven't had to.
that they've had on their team, they're not first round guys. They're second round, third round. Yeah, Puka Nacua, I think he went the 5th round. So a lot of those guys that they've been drafted as of lately, it's not like the first iteration where Aaron Donald, Jernigan, Todd Gurley, and Jared Goff. Those guys for first round guys, blue chip. These guys, they're discovered going under the radar, and
Right.
and not to mention you have guys on that team already who are already just great. They're already the thing about this defense.
Look at what you stole. You stole Blake Corum in the draft. You stole Puka Nacua in the draft. And look at the amount of talent you've accumulated. That's
Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, starting to look like a steal.
And
there you go.
And the defensive side of the ball, although you don't have Aaron Donald at this point in time, you haven't had him for the last 2 years. These guys are already being compared to the greatest defensive line of all time in the form of the Fearsome Four. You think about Fisk, you think about Jared Verse. In fact, that defense was top 10 this year. So you add an excellent pass rush with already one of the premier corners in the league. That's nothing short of amazing. When you add a corner of Trent McDuffie's caliber to an already great defense that was top 10. But I will say this: here's the part that's getting lost in this. We're talking about the Los Angeles Rams. I was about to say St. Louis again, but you're talking about the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think this is being talked about enough. This is not being talked about enough. It's time to acknowledge this. It's rebuild time for the Chiefs.
But
They're
but that,
rebuilding.
but that's my point, Chip.
They're
Which is
rebuilding, and
why I have the Rams winning this trade. Because when you
yeah,
look at the Rams, they've been doing this. They've been giving up first round picks. Like in the words of Miss Pat, like how she says, fuck them kids. That's how the Rams are with them picks. Fuck them picks. Because guess what? We can draft players, whether second, third, fourth, fifth, it doesn't matter. We can draft them and we can bring them onto their team and develop them. And look what they've done with Ferguson, with Puka Nakua, with Williams, Blake Corum. They've been loaded with talent.
Yeah, I think
See, the
Jared Verse
Chiefs,
is the only like first rounder of note that's really producing for them right now.
the
yeah,
Chiefs, to your point, champ, with all these draft picks, they're in the reclamation process. And right now, when you look at the Chiefs, they're no longer the team to come out of the AFC West. Right now, that's Denver. And then after that, there's the Chargers. But Justin Herbert, I'm sorry, had another lackluster performance in the playoffs. But right now, to me, the team is Denver. It's really the Rams. They won this trade because guess what? You have one of the top cornerbacks to pair up with that defense. Matthew Stafford coming off an MVP caliber season. I still have the offense intact. So if I'm Los Angeles, I'm still going to compete. And besides, next year's Super Bowl is in SoFi in Los Angeles, just like I won the Super Bowl, what, in 2022 against the Bengals?
Mhm.
And Sean McVay, one of the brilliant offensive minds in the NFL. Champ, it's obvious the Chiefs are in reclamation process because again, they're talking about whether they're gonna get Jeremiah Love. They're gonna talk Patrick Mahomes recovering from the ACL. They've got other things they got to address. Who knows? Are they gonna bring back Tyreek Hill? They should bring back Tyreek Hill if you're Kansas City, if you're trying to be some resemblance of what you were, because you mentioned before they should try to trade to get AJ Brown. Or I just think with the Rams, they won this one, champ, because they've been doing this long before and they still keep doing it and it's still successful. It's still making them a legit threat in the NFC. They almost could have beaten Seattle in that NFC championship game.
yeah.
So I think for me, the Rams, they won this one because I got one of the top corners. And again, Akeem Talib, he brought up this point. Chiefs, they don't take care of their corners.
Mm-mm.
They don't take care of their corners. They draft their corners, they develop good corners, but they don't pay them that type of money. Eventually, they're going to move on from them. They moved on from L'Jarius Sneed. They traded him to Tennessee. Remember?
Marcus Peters, the same thing.
There you go.
And they got
Same
and they
thing.
got Jalen Watson coming up too.
Yeah.
And yeah, and look, when you really look at the LA Rams, they're not an over the heel type of team. The average age of that team is 26 years old. The oldest guys that are on that team is Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams at this point. And if I'm not mistaken, you already have a high-powered offense. You're just trying to add pieces on defense at this point. You really can't add any more to
Hmm.
that offense if you really want me to be
Exactly.
honest with you. And you have a top 10 defense. You had the number one offense in the league. What else can you add? Okay, let's add a good corner to see if we can get over this hump. Like I said, we got Jared first. You got Fisk. You got all of the pieces that are needed. Hey, let's just go ahead. Let's give it a whirl. Like I stated, this division is wide open every single year. Why? Because this is the most talented division in the NFL. You have the Seahawks, you have the Niners, and you have the Rams. It's just a question of what the Arizona Cardinals are going to do. Don't know what they're going to do after Mega Man has just left. What's the other guy's name? Proto Man just left. I don't know what they're gonna do after he just left, but
You could have
um,
just said Mighty Mouse.
Did you just
yeah,
call that
no,
boy
we
Mega
we gonna
Man?
be nice. Mega Man, well, Proto Man after Proto Man he just left, but it's gonna be interesting to see how this division turned off. This division is wide open, and we all know what happens after Super Bowls: corporate rating. Kenny Walker is not going to be there, who was a big component of that running game. They're talking about maybe even losing a few other key pieces. So, hey, you don't know how it's going to turn out when it comes to corporate rating at this point. But this division is wide open, and they're trying to close the gap because guess what? With the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to draft well. They're going to do well. They're going to always return a great team. But the reality of the situation, a lot of these key players, they're getting older. A lot of the key players that we thought were going to be part of the San Francisco 49ers team, they're not going to be a part of it, i.e. Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be interesting to see how this division turns out with the Rams having the offseason Super Bowl at this point. And like I stated, the one thing that needs to be acknowledged is that Kansas City, they're in complete rebuild mode, but they can draft well. We have seen them draft well. We have seen them do a lot of great things well. But it's going to be a good long while before we see them back into that number one contender spot where they are just dominating the division. That's what I don't think we're going to be there until another like 2 to 3 years. But we have to start having that discussion. And look, cut out all that goat talk. It's over with. It is over. It is over. Let's see what's going to happen during the second iteration of this team. Because if he can win with another iteration of this team, then we can start it back up. But it doesn't look like they're going to win again anytime soon. So it's time to start cutting out that goat. And the only undisputed goat is TB12. So let's just cut out that goat talk off. It's going to take a good little minute for them to rebuild.
I think you're being a little too unfair, champ, because remember, before Tom Brady won his fourth Super Bowl, it took him 10 years. So let's wait and see. Mahomes still has a shot. Like I said, he doesn't necessarily need to win 7, but it's going to be harder for him to repeat during his second time, especially coming off the ACL. So, but I still think Mahomes does have a chance. BRF, what says you, man?
Well, no, well, to talk on that before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, I agree with PSP. We can't get rid of that talk yet, but at the same time, can we trust the Kansas City front office to kind of like that's the thing about the New England Patriots front office was when Brady was at his peak was like in part it was Brady cutting his money, but then it was still also the scouting and the front office, the guys they had in there being able to just and Belichick for that matter, just being able to identify talent, bring the talent in, it meshes, and then like a lot of things just work with the Patriots as far as like being able to win those championships. I don't think it's over with yet for Mahomes, but I think the ACL, and then B, are they going to be able to really kind of bring them back to the forefront? Because I think 2026 is done for them. At the very least, 2026 is probably done for them as far as like making the playoffs. They should not be in anybody's playoff talk for 2026 this year. 2027, maybe, depending on how Patrick Mahomes. I think the most important thing is how Patrick Mahomes recovers from his ACL. But I definitely don't see them in 2026. Now, to get back to the to the main point here, because we're still on the we're still on the Rams, correct? We're still on the Rams
Yes.
trade.
Trent McDuffie.
Yes. I definitely like this a lot for the LA Rams because the main thing is now you have a pairing because you saw how Emmanuel Forbes performed for the Rams this year. You have a duo. You have a duo. You have a duo to be respected now. Trent McDuffie, all pro, been in top 5 corner considerations pretty much the duration of his career. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
He's been good since he's became a starter in the National Football League. I definitely think the LA Rams won this trade just because I just feel the immediate impact that McDuffie should have for this defense in terms of being able to lock down number one guys, being able to shadow them, be able to take them out of rhythm, and just allow for guys like Fisk and Jared Verse and Byron Young, who they're able to keep, just let those guys wreak havoc. So I definitely favor this trade for the Rams. And it's for me, it's the picks that the Kansas City Chiefs brought back in exchange for McDuffie. Even though it's not rare to find the fourth, fifth, sixth, round guys to come in and really make an impact. It's not as rare as it used to be, but that doesn't mean it's not rare anymore. It's still pretty rare. I mean, you have to do your digging, you have to do your due diligence in order to nail these guys. And sometimes a lot of these guys are just guys that were projected second round or so. They just drop because I don't know. These other teams just aren't putting in the research like these other teams are, and they go out, they nail these guys, and then they flourish being in that system, which ultimately turns out to be the right system for their skill sets. But I do think the Rams won this trade because honestly, there was really not a lot for the LA Rams to really improve on. I definitely think a glaring hole was, even though Emmanuel Forbes did ball out last year for them, he was really the only corner of note that they really had that was really doing anything. And now you got a guy in Trent McDuffie who's just you saw him at Kansas City. There really wasn't much he can't do. He could play press, he could play zone, he could play man, he could play in the box. He's a really good tackler. I mean, there wasn't really much Trent McDuffie can't do on a week in and week out basis. So and an added level of physicality to that secondary is definitely something that the LA Rams needed. So bringing that in is definitely going to make that defense that much better. So there's really not a lot for me to add to this. I think the LA Rams won this trade. They're definitely in the mix for an NFC championship. They definitely should come in as one of the preeminent favorites, even though we know Seattle is, because I just have a sneaky feeling they're going to bring a lot of guys back. They're not going to really change much. You look at Kenneth Walker III. Does he come back? Does he not come back? I think it would be crazy for Seattle not to bring him back. That's just my opinion. I think Seattle should pay him, but I mean, we'll see as the offseason progresses. But the Rams are definitely going to be in the mix. Trent McDuffie makes them like that much better. Like if you want to look at the NFC, you look at the Seahawks, you look at the Rams. Like honestly, I feel like the three preeminent favorites in the NFC, really outside of the Eagles in the NFC East, are all Western teams. The Seahawks, the Rams, and the 49ers, they should be in my opinion, they should be three of the top five NFC favorites coming into 2026. So that division is going to be so loaded right now. It wouldn't shock me again if all three of them teams made the playoffs again. It just wouldn't shock me if they sent them all back. I do, but like I said, the Rams won this trade. What Trent McDuffie is going to do for this defense is you won't it's not, with a guy like him, it's not just the numbers. It's
Impact.
It's impact. It's the scheme. It's the scheme and how it opens everything up and how it allows your linemen to be able to just kind of get to the quarterback 4, 5, 6 second plays. Like it just, as you're watching the season in 2026, when you watch this Rams defense play, just pay attention to Trent McDuffie, pay attention to Emmanuel Forbes, pay attention to that pass rush, because I promise you, they're going to get more sacks this year on elongated plays because that secondary is doing work in the defensive backfield. It's going to translate immensely for the LA Rams pass rush.
And they need somebody to replace, after all, Jalen Ramsey, who was there for them when they won the Super Bowl. So adding an all-pro corner like Trent McDuffie into the mix, this is definitely going to help out with Los Angeles, which is why they won this one, because, again, they've known for doing all these trades. They gave up multiple first-round picks and Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford because they believe Stafford gives them the best chance for them to win a Super Bowl. And it paid off the first year. So with the Rams, they don't care. Whatever it takes. F them picks. As Miss Pat always says, F them kids. I mean, but that's how it is. That's how the Rams are with these picks.
You can't lie. The numbers, the facts, everything you have shown, everything that is shown with the LA Rams and how successful they have been without drafting a heaping of first round picks, just being able to develop guys. I mean, hey, I don't lie. You know what I'm saying?
BRF, speaking of running backs, because you mentioned Kenneth Walker, what are your thoughts about the Lions trading David Montgomery to the Texans? I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, Detroit won this one. Because Houston, even if you have a running back champ or BRF, you still have issues with that offensive line. And if you got the issues with the offensive line, look, if we're going to look, CJ Stroud still, he had an awful, lackluster playoff performance. I get that. And look, they moved on from Joe Mixon. I believe Joe Mixon has been released by the
Mm-hmm.
Houston Texans. So, and they moved on from Nick Chubb. So they had to address a running back. They did get Montgomery. Yes, it seems to me Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs is number one.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think with the Detroit Lions, look, running backs, you can get any running back in the draft. Hate to say it, but it is replaceable. You can get running backs second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, undrafted running backs. I think for Detroit, if you can get another running back to help out Jahmyr Gibbs, I think you'll be fine. They're still going to have the issues on the offense because, again, still without Ben Johnson. Houston, on the other hand, your defense can't be your offense. Your defense has been outstanding. They were outstanding. They should have went to the AFC Championship last year. We all know that CJ Stroud was awful in that New England game, 4 interceptions in the first half, as Champ predicted. Even if they bring in David Montgomery, without that offensive line, there are questions or concerns with Houston. So to me, I say Houston. I said Detroit won this one because you can get another running back in the draft, and Houston, can you have the offensive line to not only protect CJ but give your running back lanes? So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the Detroit Lions. You already know, Jahmyr Gibbs is your guy. You know you want to build around him. As great as the Sonic and Knuckles duo has been, ultimately you're going to want to build around Jahmyr Gibbs. You know you're going to ultimately want to give him his money. So unfortunately, David Montgomery, even though he's been a solid producer, about like about 31, 32 touchdowns the last 3 years, he's been productive for you. But ultimately, he's got to he's the odd man out in this. So I definitely think Detroit won this because I mean you pretty much nailed everything on the head. Like, what's the point of acquiring a guy like of a David Montgomery's caliber, who I feel can be a solid number one back for most teams in this league? Why would you acquire somebody like him, but yet you're still trading offensive linemen, regardless of whether they're good or not? Why are you trading? Why are you trading bodies? Why are you getting rid of bodies? You know how bad your offensive line has been. I mean, why are you giving up bodies? That make For me with the Houston Texans, when you know how bad your offensive line has been, that makes no sense. If anything, I'm going out trying to acquire offensive linemen, which is why I pray in this draft, free agency, they need to acquire at the minimum 2 to 3 offensive linemen. I mean, they just it's bad. Like, it's bad with what the Houston Texans have done as far as like this offensive line is concerned. Is It's horrible. Um, but yeah, I think ultimately with the David Montgomery trade, I think it boils down to what you're going to do with Jahmyr Gibbs as far as paying him and giving him his money. And I think that's ultimately what it was boiled down to. And I think Detroit really, they might not have wanted to do it, but I think just for the progression of this franchise and knowing that Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the faces of this franchise, I think you had to do it. Now I will say this though, and now as long as the Houston Texans does something to really rebuild this offensive line, David Montgomery is a good pickup for them because I feel like because of what he brings to the table as far as his physicality, running the ball between the tackles. He gives you a sneaky. He's sneaky athletic. He's sneaky fast as far as being able to kind of break runs. He can give you that occasional 40, 50-yard run on occasion. And he's really good out of the backfield. I think that's probably the most underrated aspect of his game, is being able to catch the football out the backfield in order to make plays that way as well. So he gives you a really good option out of the backfield for CJ Stroud. But it does nothing if they don't build this offensive line. They have to build this offensive line. This makes all the sense in the world if they know they have a plan as far as rebuilding his offensive line in order to keep CJ Stroud upright and allow running lanes for David Montgomery in order for him to do his thing. But until that happens, yeah, the Detroit Lions definitely won this trade because now even with what they get back, that's just depth pieces they can add to the team in the draft. So yeah, Detroit won this one.
Big fella.
Whenever these duos break up, somebody always is able to step up and do even better than they were before.
Mhm.
When you look at Michael Turner and LaDainian Thompson, when Michael Turner was able to break away from being the backup, he was able to be an MVP candidate in Atlanta. Could have won the MVP in Atlanta, by the way, which we won't go into that. I always feel like there's some bias within the media, but we won't go there. When you look at when Tony Dorsett and Herschel Walker were together, once Tony Dorsett was traded to the Broncos, Herschel Walker got even better. When you look at Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, once Marcus Allen didn't have the threat of Bo Jackson there anymore, and he was able to go to Kansas City where they were going to utilize him, he got better. With Jahmyr Gibbs, I really feel like that with the offensive line that they have, with a lot of the things that they have, he should be on paper an MVP candidate this year. I think him and Bijan, especially considering the fact that both of those young men are going to have their goal line carries, are not going to have their goal line carries stripped from them by David Montgomery and Tyler Azure in the form of Bijan Robinson. Those guys should be considered MVP candidates because they're going to get the ball at least 400 times this year. They're going to get the ball at least 400 times this year. And I really believe that David Montgomery is going to be a good back there in Houston, but not without a good offensive line. You don't have the running lanes that you had back in Detroit. And you don't know the kind of quarterback that you're going to get there because, like I stated, CJ Stroud is essentially the Michael Carter Williams of the NFL. He's been trying to recapture that rookie season ever since his second sophomore year. And so I don't know what they're going to do as far as the offensive line is concerned in Houston. They have the defense figured out. They have a lot of other things figured out. They have receiver figured out. They have the defense figured out. They have even the running back figured out now, and even the tight end.
They extended Dalton Schultz.
Yes, I was getting right to that. Great minds think alike.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing they have to figure out is offensive line. And another thing they need to figure out is, hey, are you going to bring in another quarterback in order to push CJ Stroud? Because it's been disastrous these last 2 years. These last 2 years with the defenses that you've had, you should have been, those were Super Bowl caliber defenses. At one point, one of the games that you won, your defense practically won it for you. So you have to decide what you're going to do going forward with CJ Stroud and that offensive line. Should you bring in a Kyler Murray in order to push him? Should you bring in a Kirk Cousins? Should you bring in someone to put behind him and saying, hey, if it gets too damn bad with the talent that you have around you, with Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, David Montgomery, this defense that scored 21 points against the team in the last playoff win that they had, hey, maybe it's time to start pushing them and putting a lot more pressure and light a fire up under them at this point. Because with the defenses that you've had the last 2 years, those are Super Bowl caliber defenses, if you're able to perform decently. I'm not talking about spectacular. I'm talking about score a touchdown, don't turn the ball over, run the ball, and guess what? Let your defense stay in there and hold on. That's the thing. Super Bowl caliber defenses. So the only questions that I have now is, can CJ Stroud recapture that magic? And can they, it's going to be a hell of a lot of offensive linemen in this particular free agency. And if I'm not mistaken, there's even talks about Trent Williams not coming back to San Francisco anymore because of his contract situation. So you have offensive linemen in free agency. You have an offensive lineman that's kind of disgruntled about his contract. And we all know Trent Williams is a different animal, and the San Francisco 49ers are a different beast when he is in the game.
He's the best tackle in football.
Exactly. Even at his old age.
Even at his age.
Exactly. So you have to decide what you want to do. At this point, people are going to talk about Lamar Jackson and everybody else's. No, 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 no. The person who's up under the most pressure at this point in time in the AFC is CJ Stroud. You have a monster of a defense, a monster of a defense. You have offensive skill players. You don't necessarily have the offensive line, but at the same time, a lot of your mistakes are the reason why your team has not been able to get over the hump. These are your mistakes. These are your interceptions. This is you taking sacks, not able to, your pocket presence being questionable at best. This is you. So the only question that it's going to be is, can they get an offensive line in order to protect him? And can he be the player that he was in his rookie year? And should you bring someone into that situation to say, if you're not going to be the player that we at least need somebody in order to be there in case you're not the guy who we thought you was. And the only reason why you were great that rookie year is because teams didn't have film on. Because regardless of what we say about this offensive line, when Davis Mills came in there, he acts like the damn offensive line is one of the great wall of Dallas. And they was able to win without him in there.
Matter of fact, they even won a game, I believe, Thursday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and when you look at the Houston Texans, how much cap space they have, I'm reading right here. According to Over the Cap, they have roughly $50 million in cap space, allowing them to make a few big moves once the negotiating window opens on Monday. The Texans enter the 2026 free agency window with the same need as their previous two off seasons. So you have enough money in cap space to get you a couple of offensive linemen, and you got to address that in the draft as well. And yeah, I said it, champ. CJ Stroud heading into the season, he's under the most pressure. Considering, look, we're having discussions about Bryce Young being better than him. Bo Nix. No,
question we never thought we were going to have after the rookie year.
Not just that, your team is significantly better than Bryce Young's team. Significantly better. Your defense is better.
But that's my point, champ. With Bryce Young, each and every year since he's been in the NFL, he has improved. Meanwhile, for CJ Stroud, it went from great to damp, because it has dipped since that historic rookie season. And I hope for CJ Stroud he delivers, because look, even though I am an Oklahoma fan and I'm also a Michigan fan, CJ Stroud did play at Ohio State. And Ohio State, a lot of quarterbacks that have come from that school haven't panned out in the NFL. I hope for CJ's sake, he breaks the cycle. He breaks the mold. For Houston, look, you have to make a decision on what you're going to do with CJ. I'm going to pick up his fifth-year option. I'm not going to pay him a long-term contract, not after what I've saw from these playoffs. But he has to prove and he has to perform, because if you look at the AFC South, we should be talking about him as the best quarterback in that division. We're still not sure on Trevor Lawrence. Anthony Richardson, remember, the Colts gave Anthony Richardson now permission for him to seek a trade. I think for him, you and I, we discussed it last week, champ. You said he should go to San Francisco. I said he should go to Los Angeles to sit behind and learn from a backup quarterback. CJ Stroud is under the most pressure. But at the same time, champ, you always use this term, grace. Grace. You've used this term, grace. Not everybody is Joe Burrow, where they can perform at an elite level without an offensive line. And how is CJ Stroud going to do that with this type of offensive line? Doesn't matter if you bring in David Montgomery. Without that offensive line, that's suicide. So for the Houston Texans, they better address it come free agency and the draft with that offensive line. But speaking of another trade, the Chicago Bears, they traded DJ Moore and a fifth round um to the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bears won this trade. Even though they feel like the Bills could use another number one wide receiver, I think the Bears won this one because of Luther Burden, Roma Dunze, and they've got other weapons. Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, who balled out last year. And I think with Ben Johnson as the offensive mind and with Caleb Williams, hopefully, if he can get better, if Caleb Williams becomes more consistent, more accurate, Chicago has even a better chance. Caleb Williams would have more of a discussion to be in the MVP. If Caleb Williams improves his accuracy, I could definitely see Chicago taking a step up. Now with the defense, I mean, they were number one in takeaways last year. I don't see that happening. I do see them declining to a little bit, but I think with the offense where it's at, they're loaded. Because you got Burton, you got DeAndre Swift, you got Loveland, the tight end. Remember, BRF, you raved about Cole Kmet.
He's still good.
He is. I think the Bears won this trade. As for the Bills, even if by bringing in DJ Moore, and yes, that is a help for Josh Allen, still, at the end of the day, Champ always says, let James cook. Who won this trade, y'all?
Chicago.
Hmm.
They already had pieces in place in order for when DJ Moore departed. And yeah, you get a second round pick.
Yes, they get a second round pick. So guess what? They can address either some more help with offensive line or defense or any other spot they can address.
Well, the Bears acquired Garrett Bradbury, so they don't need to address that.
Exactly. I was just about to bring that up. Thank you, BRF. They don't need to address the offensive line, and the reason why they did that is because their Pro Bowl offensive lineman, their center, retired.
I'm retired.
So, I'm just saying, there's nothing wrong with having more offensive line.
Oh, absolutely not. Nothing wrong with it at all.
I mean, having more offensive line is like having more chicken wings on your plate. You just can't get enough of them. But
hey,
it's gonna be real. Hey man, look, hey, if they put
well, that's kind of like you at Magic City.
15, that's good.
I'm telling you.
That's kind of like you, Champ. You can't get more bread. You can't get enough chicken and woman at Magic City.
Exactly. So get them lemon pepper flats on the plate. Bring her along with it. But anyway, but
Magic City Monday is a whole nother conversation. Shout out to the Hawks.
Whole other conversation. let me be good on this show. We'll save the rest for the uncensored show tomorrow. But we'll save it for the uncensored show tomorrow.
Fair enough.
But yeah, because Flash, he finna go in there and rap.
We finna tat down tomorrow night.
Exactly.
We finna tat down.
We know Flash finna come in there with guns and
boy.
Boy. On the ad on week.
Flash. See that why I love Flash boy. Flash boy. My timid level kind of go from here to zero. Like Flash, let me boy.
But I think Chicago won because they were able to get a second round pick. They was able to get that contract off their books. And, you have a lot of young players now that are on rookie contracts, and you're not going to have to necessarily worry about them for a couple years down the road. And, you can possibly win this division because Detroit looks like their team is slowly but surely break up. You saw it with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, them leaving. You saw it with some of the great players leaving. One of the foundations of that team is leaving in the form of David Montgomery. We still have questions about Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. It's a question of what are they going to do about J.J. McCarthy in the form of the Minnesota Vikings, or if they're going to even bring somebody in there like a Kyler Murray, or they're going to bring in Kirk Cousins at this point. Not to mention, I think their tight end retired over the course of the summer as well. So there's a lot of questions about a lot of teams in this division as far as the blood and guts division of the NFC North. But the only question mark, the only team without any question marks at this point is the Chicago Bears. So I really think that they are primed to win that division, and they are stated to win that division this year. On the flip side of that coin, look, it's time. It's time. Now, we were all raving about Drake May this year, but at the same time, let's just be real. A lot of the things that happened in the playoff were despite him. I don't know if they're going to complete. I don't know if they're going to complete the story next year. Going to be even able to complete the story this year. I think that they're going to take a dip. I think they're going to take a dip. So you don't know what the New York Jets are going to be. You don't know what the New England Patriots are going to be. And you don't know what the Miami Dolphins are going to be now that Tua and Tyreek Hill, a lot of cornerstones of that Miami franchise is gone.
Oh, I know what the Dolphins and the Jets are going to be in 2026. Oh, I know exactly what they're going to be
Yeah,
trash.
yeah, they're gonna be
And
they're gonna
plus,
be
even if they release Tua, you know how much money?
yeah,
99.2
So,
million.
yeah, yeah, that's Gracie Bond
damn.
ass, if you really want me to be honest.
Oh,
That's how ass they go.
that's oh boy. That's
Gracie
new
Bond,
that's
Gracie
that's
Bond
New
ass.
Orleans. That's New Orleans Saints levels of cap hell.
Yes. And so they're gonna be Gracie Bond type ass at this point. So yeah. So both of those teams. So it's pretty much up to you, Josh Allen. What are you gonna do? You have the look, you won an MVP without Stephon Diggs. James Cook led the league in rushing last year. You have cornerstones of their franchise. Now you have a DJ Moore, and even without DJ Moore, Gabe Davis was a big part of that offense during the course of the playoffs. What are you going to do now? It's do or die. If people are going to say, well, there's a lot more threats, okay, cool, fair enough. But you can't complain, and then when they do something about it, then you're bitching about that as well. Because people are going to say, well, DJ Moore, he's washed. No, he's not. Whoever's saying that is not doing their homework. It's just the wide receiver room is so full of talent at this point. How can you get that ball to every single person? How can you? How would you? You have 3 number 1 receivers on your and a tight end. And that ain't even including the guy coming out the backfield running the ball. So it's loaded in this wide receiver room. So that's like he wasn't getting the touches as much as he was before when he first got traded to Chicago. So they got a good wide receiver. They got a number 1 guy. DJ Moore is one hell of a number 1 receiver. You have James Cook. What are you going to do now? And you still have your first round pick. What are you going to do now? We've been talking about this for the past few years. And look, from what it looks like, Patrick Mahomes not going to be back anytime soon. Pops has left the house. Are you going to clean up the house? Or are you going to wait till he come back so he can whoop your ass? That's the thing. It's time for you to clean up the house. It's basically at this point, it's up to either you, Lamar, or Joe Burrow out of the big 3, out of the big 4 in order to step up. And I will say Justin Herbert. The big 4, wait a minute. The big 4 are under the most pressure this year. No Patrick Mahomes. You have first round picks in the form of the Los Angeles Chargers. You have over $80 million in cap space. The Baltimore Ravens, you just re-signed Max Crosby. Knowing how great the Baltimore Ravens is at accumulating talent, you're going to be able to get more talent on the offensive line, and you're going to get another weapon this year, knowing how great that organization is. Joe Burrow, question mark. But we know that you can put up points. Josh Allen, you just got a replacement for Stephon Diggs, and in fact, he's a hell of a lot more quieter. You ain't got to worry about a lot of the allegations going on. You ain't got to worry about the dissension in the locker room. You ain't got to worry about it being a celebrity place. So out of everybody who's in the league, I would say CJ Stroud and the big 4, Lamar, Josh, Burrow, and Herbert, those five quarterbacks are under the most pressure. One of those quarterbacks, in order to extinguish everything, has to win and win it all quick. Otherwise, the verdict is going to be out forever. And I believe it has to be within the next 2 years.
I go Josh Allen for the most pressure, considering how awful he played in that Broncos game, including, I'm sorry, champ, that fumble that he had late in the second quarter, that which the Broncos capitalized off of 3 points. And he even admitted, and he said it himself, to his credit, I let my teammates down. To which Deion Dawkins even cried and said, nah, he didn't let him down. But of course, he didn't want to but he didn't want Josh Allen to take all the blame. So Josh Allen's under a lot of pressure. Definitely CJ. Definitely Justin Herbert. Still, as talented, as great as you are, you still haven't won a playoff game. And Drake May wasn't even that much better in that game, to which the Patriots beat you. And with Lamar, okay, now, new head coach. I mean, you brought in Max Crosby for a trade. They did what they could with Derrick Henry for you. And you got to be able to stay healthy as well. We can't and Todd Monken, that's going to be the question mark, champ, because Todd Monken, we got the best from Lamar Jackson as a passer.
Yeah.
Especially in 2024. Even though I said Josh Allen should have won the MVP, I would have had no problem with Lamar because of how Lamar was putting up those types of numbers, 41-4, over 4,000 yards. That's the best we saw Lamar Jackson as a passer.
Yes.
So I think I think Chicago won this one. All these, I mean, they still got loads of players on the offensive side of the football. I tried to tell you, champ, about Montez Sweat. I told you how good Montez Sweat is to this team. Another double-digit sack season, which is why I hope for Washington's sake they get either David Bailey, they either get Ruben Bain. And for people who still knocking on Ruben Bain's dinosaur arms, stop, please. He can still get after the quarterback. And not only that, he can also stop the run. Either David Bailey, Ruben Bain, or Arvell Reese from Ohio State. This is going to be a loaded. This is like one of the best defensive draft classes. So I hope for Washington with that 7th overall pick, they better get somebody. But I think, champ, for Chicago, they won this one because their offense is still going to be in attack, and you got a 2nd-round pick. So even though they sold on offensive linemen, like I always say, you can't always go wrong with having more offensive linemen on the team.
Yes, indeed.
There's nothing wrong with having more offensive linemen. It's kind of like having more women at the factory, having more chocolate at the factory. So BRF.
But no, I definitely agree with Chicago winning this trade. I mean, y'all listed all the reasons. I mean, y'all making like really, really good points. I mean, the Chicago offense from a talent standpoint is one of the most loaded units in the entire National Football League. I mean, when you have guys like Rome Odunze and Luther Burden, that opens up the door to be able to trade a DJ Moore and actually bring back a 2nd-round pick, which is crazy. That DJ Moore brought you back a 2. It's insane. Just to add to the riches, just draft another offensive lineman with that number 2 pick and just get another body in there. And then heck, if he turns out to be a really, really good one, heck, you won that trade even more. But yeah, when you have the talent that the Chicago Bears possess on that offensive side of the ball, it opens up the door to trade a DJ Moore. It pretty much just open the door. You still have a Odunze, you still have Luther Burden, not just DeAndre Swift, but Kyle Monangai, who was like a late, kind of turning himself into an offensive rookie of the year candidate. Same thing with Colson Loveland and Luther Burden. You basically had 3 potential offensive rookie of the year candidates on your squad. And then, like you said, like I was like Colt Kmet coming in this year for me was a top 10 tight end in the league. Granted, he wasn't getting the opportunities because Colson Loveland is like better than he is, which is insane. But yeah, that Chicago offense, you had the room to make a trade like that because DJ Moore deep down still feels like he can be a number 1 receiver in the league. And I mean, what better opportunity than playing with Josh Allen in Buffalo? Now, the question on that side of the aisle is what are you going to do with this now, Buffalo? Like, I think pairing DJ Moore with Khalil Shakir is definitely better. It's better than what you've had because DJ Moore is an underrated deep threat.
Yes.
He's an underrated route runner. He does everything really, really good from the wide receiver position. He gives Josh Allen a good target, he gives Josh Allen something he really hasn't had since Stephon Diggs, which is the ability to go, have a better ability to go over the top of a defense. DJ Moore does give you that, and Josh Allen really hadn't had that since Stephon Diggs, so it definitely helps. I don't think it doesn't move the needle like that for me in terms of impact, but I do think DJ Moore as a wide receiver gets slept on a lot because you look at those years of Carolina, he was putting up those crazy numbers with absolutely mediocre to horrid quarterback play and was still putting up the numbers he was putting up with Carolina. So I do like him getting an opportunity like this for another playoff contending team like the Buffalo Bills to be the guy, to be the number one guy. I do like that for DJ Moore getting this kind of opportunity. I just hope, like with Joe Brady coming in as a new head coach there, I just hope he just kind of brings him in. I want the focus for Buffalo to still be, honestly, at the end of the day, I want them to focus on getting James Cook the ball.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, the focus for the Bills offense should be James Cook. I get you have Josh Allen. I get Josh Allen in my opinion, is a top 2 quarterback in the league. James Cook needs to be the focal point of this offense because we saw it during the regular season. When James Cook is getting touches and it's getting the ball and it's making plays, it opens up everything. It takes burden off of Josh Allen. It makes the play action threat that much more dangerous. And then you add a guy like DJ Moore who can go over the top with that play action pass. It go deep on the fake outs like that. It just opens up so much more. James Cook still needs to be the focal point of this offense. DJ Moore should just give you probably the best deep outlet you've had since Stephon Diggs. He should do that for you. But Chicago won this trade because I really feel like this offense can really take a step. Now with Luther Burden and Rome Odunze, knowing they are the duo, they are going to be like one of the main focal points, knowing they are the duo. Now is Caleb Williams' time to really take a step up in his own right, improve his accuracy. We look, the playmaking, the out of pocket, the out of structure plays. We know he's godlike already when it comes to out of structure play. We already know that from Caleb Williams. But that in pocket, that pocket awareness, his accuracy, now is that time. If the Chicago Bears are going to be taken seriously as a potential NFC title contender, it's on him. And now with DJ Moore being gone, kind of really a lot of that toxicity that could have been built, having 3 guys like that who are going to command the ball, you get rid of DJ, you got a guy like Luther Burden and Rome Odunze. Now it's like they could kind of work more in tandem with each other. The chemistry can be there, the camaraderie is there. Now they can really go do their thing and develop as threats for you. Now it's on Caleb. He's got to take this step. If he can ultimately if he can become what we feel like he can be in terms of, like, I feel like his ceiling, Caleb Williams' ceiling in terms of his talent for me is all pro top 5 in the league. I think he has that type of ceiling. Now it's almost like you got the groceries. I mean, hey, they working it for you in the kitchen. They getting you the groceries. You got to cook being a quarterback. You got to whip up the meals of the quarterback. Now it's on you. So we'll just see if he can. We'll see if he can do it this season. But yeah, I definitely think Chicago won this trade. They're just too loaded on offense. I mean, it's a luxury being that loaded on offense to be able to trade a DJ Moore. So yeah, Chicago won this trade.
I agree. Like I said, I think Caleb Williams can take that next step up. If he improves his footwork, his accuracy, I think Caleb Williams definitely has a chance to win the league MVP if the Bears have another great year. And again, you saw what they did last year, and they were that close to getting to the NFC Championship game the first time since 2010. So with this type of offense and with Ben Johnson, and then hopefully if the defense can improve just a little bit more, I think Chicago has a good shot to really come to the NFC Championship game. But speaking of another quarterback, Kyler Murray. Obviously, the news that he was released by the Arizona Cardinals after 7 seasons. Look, Arizona had to make the decision to cut him. And look, with the Cardinals, by releasing Kyler Murray, this will force the team to carry $36.8 million in guaranteed money for the upcoming season. Despite not being on the roster, this payment covers his guaranteed salary and it also avoids larger guarantees for 2027. In terms of dead cap hit, the move will result in approximately $54.7 million in total dead money for the Cardinals. The Cardinals can save on this amount if Murray signs with another team, which is an offset clause, likely reducing their burden by at least $1.3 million, which is the league minimum. And look, post June 1 designation to manage the cap hit, the team is expected to use a post June 1 designation, allowing them to spread the dead money $47.5 million in 2026, 7.2 in 2027. Look, coming out of college, I was a huge Kyler Murray fan. I always wanted him to succeed, and that was because, in large part, after all, he went to one of my schools that I rooted for, the University of Oklahoma. Kyler Murray showed a lot of promise his first 3 years. Rookie year, he did win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and his second and his third year made 2 Pro Bowls. Each of those 3 seasons, Arizona improved. Matter of fact, Kyler Murray's third year, the first half of the season, he was the leading candidate for the MVP until he got hurt. You kind of saw the writing on the wall. You kind of saw how things were starting to take a turn in Arizona after that third season, particularly the playoff game against against the Los Angeles Rams, in which they got embarrassed in that game. Kyler Murray finished that game on a scale of QBR 0 to 100 with an 8, throwing one of the worst pick sixes in the NFL underhand. Then came to the conversation regarding the contract. And look, Kyler Murray deserved the contract because of what he was able to do the first 3 seasons. Who else were you going to find to replace Kyler Murray at the time? But one of the problems was when they gave him the contract, they put an independent study clause in his contract in which they required him to study 4 hours outside the job. I'll ask you, BRF, I'll ask you, Champ. Have you ever heard of anything like that, an independent study clause? Because we've heard weight clauses, we've heard other clauses. An independent study clause when they're about to pay him that amount of money, over $200 million, over $100 million in guaranteed, and they put a stipulation in his contract in which he has to take his ass home and study.
Never heard that a day in my life. It's crazy. It's if the if you're coming into a season, if you're coming to a team, if you're becoming the face of the franchise, that should be the last thing the front office should be worried about is you going home, putting the work in, not just studying in class with your coaches and your teammates, but when you go home, when you get away from the home base, when you get away from the facilities, studying like that. I mean, that should be the last thing they have to worry about. Never heard that a day in my life, but man,
And
is
then look,
yeah.
and you kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury for Arizona because of the air raid offense to which Kyler Murray ran at the University of Oklahoma that led to him being the Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick. Remember the Thursday night football game when Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury were butting heads?
Mm.
You did see that. Plus, you've often mentioned, Champ, look how Cliff Kingsbury was in Washington with a coachable quarterback in Jaden Daniels. So with Kyler Murray, and look, the reason why with Kyler, because look, he responded to one of my posts on Instagram. And again, the mistake that I made was tagging him into the post. Kyler talked about how I don't know him, how you don't know how much hard work I put in. Here's the thing, Kyler. If you're so offended for anyone to question your work ethic, Why would an organization who drafted you with the number 1 overall pick, paid you this amount of money, why would they put a clause in your contract in which you have to study outside the job? Furthermore, you even said in an article from the New York Times that you were blessed with the cognitive skills to just go out there and just see it before it happens. I'm not one of these guys that's going to kill myself watching film. I don't sit down and break down film for 24 hours and look at that team or that team because in my head I see so much. So you feel like you're so gifted as a talent, as an athlete, that you don't need to do the requisite things just in order for you to be prepared. And the Cardinals, they've done what they could to help out Kyler Murray. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins. Idiotically, we've seen the Minnesota Vikings. They trade Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills. They got a first-round pick. Again, they got DeAndre Hopkins. Houston didn't even get a first-round pick for him. They brought him DeAndre Hopkins. They brought in Zach Ertz. They also got him James O'Connor. Michael Wilson had a very underrated season. Michael Wilson, one of the wide receivers for the Arizona Cardinals. They drafted Marvin Harrison with the 4th overall pick. They got him Trey McBride. But for whatever reason, it didn't pan out. And then Kyler Murray also had injury issues, which was another concern with Kyler Murray because obviously he's not the biggest quarterback. He's listed at 5'10", but he's really more 5'8", 5'9". And I said, once he got hurt and once Jacoby Brissett came in, let Jacoby Brissett be the quarterback for the season. And what you saw from Jacoby Brissett last season with this team, even though they didn't win a lot of games, you saw somewhat of the potential of what this team could be and how it's best for them to move on from Kyler. I'm glad that the Cardinals moved on from Kyler, and I hope for Kyler he can go elsewhere. Now, in my opinion, where is the team for Kyler? Definitely not the Jets. Definitely not Miami. Because, Champ, and you've brought this up. You mentioned I mentioned Atlanta. And you and I, we had a long conversation about this. You told me, no, I do not want Kyler Murray in Atlanta because at the money at that time, we already went through cap hell with Matt Ryan. Well, fortunately, now that Kyler Murray's released, you don't have to deal with the money situation. But more importantly than anything else, you talked about Arizona. You are a fighter yourself. You know a lot of mixed martial artists go to Arizona to train, focus, and work on their craft. If you can't focus in a place like Arizona, what the hell makes you think you can focus in a place like Atlanta or New York or Miami? I think for me, Kyler should go to Minnesota. I spoke to a sports guy talking. He suggested that Kyler Murray should go to New Orleans, but I don't see Kyler Murray being a backup to Tyler Shue. Even if Tyler Shue wasn't there, yeah, I could imagine Kyler Murray working with Kellen Moore, a young guy. But I think he needs to go to Minnesota. He needs to go to a place with structure. Or if not, you mentioned, Champ, could he go to Houston? Because we're not sure with C.J. Stroud at this point.
Well,
it also goes to show you. It also goes to show you with Kyler Murray, man. Look, you got on me for questioning your work ethic and stuff like that, my dude. If you felt so offended, why would the Cardinals? Why would an organization put that clause in your contract? And plus, people have questioned your attitude in the past. Patrick Peterson, remember what he said? Kyler Murray don't care about nobody but Kyler Murray.
Exactly.
Larry Fitzgerald Sr., who is a damn good sports journalist, the father of Larry Fitzgerald, even described you as spoiled. And if it's coming from the father of Larry Fitzgerald, given how class personified Larry Fitzgerald is, who's that coming from? I hope for Kyler he goes elsewhere. He turns around his career. I don't wish bad. I don't wish ill will, man. But Kyler, you brought a lot of this on yourself. The organization, they did their part by trying to help you, get you some weapons, and they did. They got you DeAndre Hopkins. They even went and got in Zach Ertz later on during the 2021 season. They went in and got you Trey McBride. They went in and got you some pieces, and you still couldn't pan out. I hope it's an opportunity for you to learn and mature. I think Minnesota should be the best place for him because I have doubts about JJ McCarthy. Even though Kyler Murray has durability issues, do you trust JJ's durability issues? And if not, then who else are you going to get if you're Minnesota? You want Anthony Richardson? Whoever wants to go.
Ooh, that is nasty. Um, Look, let's just be real. Unless you go to the Vikings or even Atlanta at this point, because that's where they're narrowing it down to, Atlanta or Minnesota, you have a lot of proving to do. And if you end up going to Atlanta or Minnesota, it's win right now. You don't have no grace because you're going to go in there with a good defense. I don't know what's going to happen with James Pierce, but I believe that they're good enough in order
He,
to.
he gonna be out for. He may
Yeah, he
be
gonna
out for
be.
the
But
season.
yeah, let's just go ahead and just.
Atlanta's defense is going to be. I think has the defense without James Pierce. I think people
Yeah,
sleep on the other talent that Atlanta brought in that draft. I think Atlanta's fine without James Pierce.
yeah, and especially we still got to wait on free agency to see what else they're capable of doing. But yeah, with that defense, with the receivers, tight end, running back, it's do or die, win or cry. Um, Now, in his defense, I will say Arizona has, there's not been great offensive line play in Arizona at this point. There hasn't been a lot of great offensive line play. Um, Although he has had James Conner, there's been a lot of young guys at the wide receiver position, whether they're, established talent. But I will say this: they've done a lot in order to help you. And I don't think you helped your case with a lot of these young guys, especially when Maserati Marv, his first year, with what you said, it's not my job to try to force the ball to him. And that's what you do for your top guys. You try to force the ball to them and see if they can make something out of it, to see if they can go up and get it, to see if they can make a play on the ball. That's your job. But right now, it's do or die for his career because, like I said, it's a lot easier to deal with somebody when they're not a prick. It's a lot easier to deal with somebody when they're not a prick. But when you're a prick and you have talent and you refuse to use it, that's where the problem comes in. That's where the problem comes in. And Kyler, a lot of the things that he does, it goes to show you how tone deaf he really is. Like wearing the Michael Vick jersey with him in college and then having the Bulldog with him in the picture. That just goes to show you that you really don't know how to read a room. Read the room. Who in their right mind? So it's not just you reading defenses. Can you read the room? You obviously can't if you did something like that. Are you able, are you likable? Are you able to say, hey, I'm able to do this and rally and get the guys to rally around me? There's been too many instances at this point where people are saying that you don't give a crap, that you're selfish, that you're spoiled. What are you going to do to remedy that? What are you going to do to remedy that? Because had your attitude been a lot better, I believe you still be at Arizona. And like I stated before, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, once your coordinators and your other coaches got with more cooperative quarterbacks, they've thrived. So, got a lot of proving you got to do. But if you end up going to Atlanta or Minnesota and you don't win that starting position, Mr. Postman, that's your butt.
BRF.
Yeah, I think personally for me, the two logical fits for me are the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons. When you look at those offenses and how they're structured, I mean, they're basically like a quarterback away from like really doing something. Like Kevin O'Connell, Kevin Stefanski, similarly similar schematically as far as like how they like to run. They like the idea of like running the ball, play action, setting, running the ball to set up the pass. They both like that. They both like incorporate well. I think Kevin Stefanski he likes incorporating his tight ends a little more than Kevin O'Connell does. But they both like to get the ball down the field. But like I said, it's premeditated on running the ball and play and setting up the play action. So I think they're both similarly schematically in that. I think those are the two logical places for him. You look at Minnesota. I mean, come on, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones will be back for 2026. I mean, like it makes sense from a logical standpoint. I mean, you have weapons there, and then the Falcons. I mean, come on, I follow this team every day. I mean, you look at what they have. They did release Darnell Mooney. They did release him, but you still have Drake London. You franchise tag Kyle Pitts. You're trying to get an extension done with him. You have Bijan Robinson. You have Tyler Algier not coming back, but you still have that's your three-headed monster there. So either way, whatever situation you go into, you're coming into that situation with talent already there around you, and honestly, you're going to fit schematically regardless of whichever offense you go to. I think it's up to Kyler. I mean, the reason why I didn't want Kyler in Atlanta a couple years ago, I didn't want him at like $200 million. Now, Kyler Murray at the league minimum, we can talk business. We can talk business for Kyler Murray at the league minimum. We can talk business because you want this to be a Kyler Murray with something to prove. You want this to be a Kyler Murray with a chip on his shoulder. You want this to be a focused Kyler Murray because I feel like a focused Kyler Murray can do damage. But this is even though unfortunately it had to come to this for him. Hey, that's life lesson. Sometimes, regardless of what you're doing, you sometimes you got to learn the hard way. You got to learn a certain way in order to, for the message to really be drilled in and really be embedded in your brain as far as like what needs to be done in order to be a successful NFL quarterback. So you hated it comes to this for him, but I want him to succeed as well because he's got just as much talent as anybody in this league, regardless of his size. He has to be as small as he is. He's got a big enough arm. You've seen his deep ball. Yeah, you see his deep ball. He's got one of the better deep balls in the league. He has a strong enough arm. We know his athleticism. He's probably the fastest quarterback outside of Lamar Jackson in the league. I mean, let's keep it a buck. I mean, his athleticism is like it speaks for itself. So we know what he brings to the table from an athletic standpoint. It's about the man and it's about the focus and it's about it's about the effort, it's about the work ethic. And I mean, hey, PSP. I understand where you're coming from as far as like, making a mistake as far as tagging him in that post. And I completely understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, you're getting a point across. So you ain't necessarily got to apologize because you're getting a point across. If he can't handle it, that's on him. That's not a you problem. That's a him problem. You know what I'm saying? Hit dog holler. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If it's there, there's got to be a little bit of truth to it because you haven't been able to show it.
I said, okay, Kyler, if you felt so offended for anyone to question your work ethic, why would the Cardinals put that clause in your contract?
Exactly. You 1,000% correct on that. You 1,000% right on that. If your work ethic is so up to par and you have the type of football IQ that you know what to expect, the Arizona Cardinals should not be dropping that kind of clause in your contract at all. That should be the least of their worries if they know what to expect from you every given Sunday.
And plus, you even admitted you don't even spend a lot of time watching film.
Crazy.
Go back to the article. Just go back to the New York Times back in December 2021. He said that. Also, too, why is it, Kyler? It seems like you're more interested in video games, Call of Duty, other stuff than besides football. And the thing is, y'all bring up Atlanta. If Kyler Murray goes to Atlanta, we talked about Kevin Stefanski with Shedeur Sanders. How's it going to be with Kevin Stefanski and Kyler Murray?
Because the reason why I feel like it would differ, see, with Shedeur Sanders, I think you have to look at it in terms of like a status as far as like.
We knew the status because Shedeur Sanders, even though he was Deion Sanders' son, he was drafted in the 5th round. But regardless, Shedeur Sanders, as much criticism, because remember, Rex Ryan because you and I, champ, we talked about Rex Ryan, babyface heel.
Yes.
I thought too many times he was too unfair to Shador Sanders.
Oh, he was. Facts. He was. He was. The reason why I want to talk about it. I look at it. See, with the Cleveland, I think also with the Cleveland situation, even though Dylan Gabriel showed himself time and time and time again that he was not the guy. I think there was a little too much favoritism towards Dylan Gabriel there that hurt Shador Sanders as well. Kyler Murray coming into Atlanta, the only other guy there is Michael Penix Jr. and he's hurt. So coming into the regular season, if Kyler Murray signs in Atlanta, you have to go with him. So there's no trying to play favoritism. There's no trying to do anything crazy like that. That is your guy until Penix get hurt. You can't rush Penix back.
Oh no, I understand that, BRF. Yeah. I'm just saying, how is Kyler Murray and Kevin Stefanski going to work? Because remember, Kevin Stefanski, y'all came to his defense. Because too many people were chastising or criticizing him for him and Shador Sanders. There were conspiracy theories about, he wanted Shador Sanders to fail and stuff like that.
This is what I say to that. Like, I feel where people were coming from with that, because with the reputation that Shador Sanders had already built for himself coming to the league. And I kind of get where people was coming from. I think the main thing that people forgot about Kevin Stefanski was that he got that sorry ass franchise to the playoffs twice.
Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of things, and I think that was the main thing a lot of people forgot about him. He got that franchise to the playoffs twice and won Coach of the Year both of those years. And I think a lot of people really forget about that. So it's not necessary. So I don't think it's necessarily Kevin Stefanski is a bad coach, because I don't think it's a bad coach at all. You look at those last 2 years in Cleveland, good God, what head coach in their right mind is going to succeed with that trash of a roster construction with the Cleveland Browns? And that includes the fact that you have an elite defense on the other side of the ball, but that offensive roster construction was so trash.
Nobody.
You're so trash. Nobody's going to succeed with that roster construction. And that includes Jerry Jeudy finally waking up, having a breakout 2024, only to completely regress and turn back into Denver Jerry Jeudy in 2025. Hands like bricks and run routes like he's taking a breathalyzer test. I'm just saying, like, just bad. So I mean, what can you do with that? So I don't think it was necessarily all on Stefanski. I don't think it was all on Stefanski, but does he hold blame on it? I think he should, because at the end of the day, you're still the head coach, and you still have to try to stabilize it and make the best of a bad situation. And he didn't do that like I felt like he could have those last 2 years in Cleveland, which is why a lot of Falcons fans hated the hire and wish they could have gone another route. Me personally, I feel like
I don't have a problem with it, because I feel like it's the best one you had, and considering what you had in Raheem Morris, and how Raheem Morris, with all that amount of talent, you couldn't.
He fumbled this team. This team should have made the playoffs both years. He was a head coach, and he practically fumbled it. So I mean, where are you gonna go?
Hey, BRF, it's like Champ said. Champ said last week, you want to talk about Ime Udoka fumbling the bag with Neil Long? That's how Raheem Morris was last year with this team.
Ooh, I ain't see that. When y'all talked about that, I ain't see that.
That post going up very, very soon.
Y'all get an A+ for me just for mentioning that alone, because he damn sure did fumble the bag on that one. But that's a whole nother conversation. But
fumble the short hair queen.
This is all on Kyler. He's got to come in knowing he's probably going to sign for the league minimum wherever he goes. He's got to come in. He's got to take it upon himself. He already showed some accountability in that letter he wrote, because he took it. He took it on the head. I failed us. So he's got to carry that, turn it into a chip in his shoulder, and wherever he signs, he's got to come in focused. I think he can succeed. He's just got to have the right mindset. That's what it boils down to.
Kyler Murray's problem has never been a talent. We knew he was tremendously talented. It's just the maturity issue. And my concern is Atlanta. Champ lives in Columbus. BRF, you live in Madison. Not too far away from Atlanta. Y'all have been to Atlanta. It's a beautiful place to be. But at the same time,
distractions.
Exactly. And
Right.
the thing is, the
Distraction.
main thing that he's interested in, bro, they just built 6 new arcades in Atlanta, man.
I'm
The
about to say
Formula One
Atlanta is a
And he
is
loves
Atlanta
full of
is a
video
freaking
gaming
arcades.
games.
haven. It
He
is a
loves
gaming
video
Yes.
haven.
games.
Yes, it's a gaming haven. Hey
It's a
man,
gaming haven.
joystick arcade. They got the classic arcades there. I mean, you got bro. You cannot want to be a adult and still have fun. You can
Exactly.
still be a kid in an adult playground and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah,
plus Miami and New York with Kyler. Nah.
Mm-mm.
bro. And look, I'm gonna just be real. Miami has not been relevant since the Don Shula days as far as just winning. They haven't had the coaching. They haven't had a lot of good things. I'll even give it to Dave Wanstead days. But
Yeah, I'll give
Kyler
it
and
Dave Wannstedt. They
Dave
maintain a
Wanstead,
little bit of stability with Dave
yeah, gave him a
Wannstedt.
little bit, but something's got to give. Something's got to give with Kyler. And look, I'm not look. If I know something can make me money, I'm gonna just be real. A lot of things that I am doing now, I'm not on social media as much now. I post videos and I get the hell off of social media. And that's just how I do because I realize there's something else at play that can make me a hell of a lot more money, at least for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can realize that, and that is only going to equate me to maybe at back 6 figures, then if you got 9, then do the damn math.
Mhm.
So, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie, bro. I wish that a lot of these NFL players would look and see what they had because look, there's a lot of things that they have that the average Joe, if he had, he could make something out of nothing. That's why you see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these undrafted free agents from these small colleges. They come in and they thrive. They have more resources. They have more means to get things done. They have a lot more to get things done. And they're not worried about it. Look, I'm just going to go to practice and play the game that I love. So they're not worried about all the other stuff that they know are going to come once you get that big old contract. Call of Duty costs $49 a game, maybe even $50.
Hmm.
And like my
It's-
mom used to always say, I used to love to play NBA Jam, Streets of Rage, see how far I can get before I went to school. Because you try to leave the game on, then guess what? It's gonna go off because the game's gonna overheat. What up, Wayne? But the thing was, my mom used to always tell me this. My dad as well. You got to realize something. We tell you to read in the morning, although we know you know the test. We know you know what's on that test. We tell you to read in the morning because you got to realize these gaming companies, they got their money. Matter of fact, they got 8 times your money. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, 20 times. You cannot make what they've made off of 60 million of folks like you in one lifetime. They got their money. You got to get yours. And for you to kind of come into the league going in hot, not to mention, you know, the let's just keep it real, the Arizona Cardinals, when you first came in, when they drafted you number 1 overall, they got a mulligan. Because remember the year before that, they drafted Josh Rosen top 10. I think it was top 10.
Yes, he
So
was.
Yes, he
yeah,
did.
they got a mulligan. They got huh?
Yes, they did. They
Yeah.
drafted Josh Rosen with the 10th pick.
Okay, so yeah, they got a mulligan. So you replace the guy top 10. You have brilliant moments at a certain point, and then you'll just eh. So it's time to put the bull jive behind you at a certain point. Forget them games, F them games, put Street Fighter and Call of Duty up. They got their money. This is your chance to write yourself a good redemption story. This is your chance to prove that Cliff Kingsbury was that everybody else was the problem outside of you. It's kind of like going through a bad breakup. If you go out there and you getting in these streets, then you already proved everybody right. When you go out there and you do everything the right way in order to improve yourself, that's where you win the battle.
Yeah. And it's
So
not
it's your
like,
turn to try to
it's
win the
not
battle.
like, he was like playing. I mean, he got hurt in 2025, but good gracious, 2024, he threw for 4,000 yards. So it's not like he was like sucking on the field.
No, it's not like
No.
he's stuck it. It was just you're not putting forth your maximum effort. And we know you're not. This is not you. This is just like little shades of you. It's just it pisses people off to know you have that ability. For you not to put your best foot forward and put your all into something, that's offensive to people who believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to believe in you. So do your job so we can believe in you. That's all I have to say about it.
I don't have a problem with it at all. But fellas, let's get into some NBA. What were your thoughts about Jason Tatum, his return after 10 months? I thought he looked rusty. He missed some dunks, especially the one that he kind of missed, but overall, the threes. I mean, he was 3 of 8 from 3, 37%. I thought he looked solid. I just think for him, I wish he could have waited for the rest of the season, but if he feels like he's ready to go, go. He's right now they're currently playing against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What were your thoughts on Jason Tatum's return, BRF?
Man, as a guy who follows like the NBA as far as like from a DFS standpoint, daily fantasy perspective, when I heard that he was back and he was going to play Friday, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This dude is still only like 10 months fresh off of that Achilles tear and he's back playing. And so, like, I'm in some discords with like guys like the FanDuel and DraftKings lineups. So when he was announced, they were kind of sketchy, like, should we play him in our lineups and da da da. And then the report came, there's going to be no minutes restriction. And then it's like, wait, what? His first game back and you're not restricting him? And going back looking at the highlights, yeah. I mean, 10 months off an injury like an Achilles. I mean, Jason Tatum's like one of the most athletic guys in the league. He's a dunk. I mean, yeah, he's like an all-around guy, but we know he could throw it down. He's a dunker when when it's time to throw it down, he can attack the rim. So we kind of knew the rust was going to be there, but all in all, looking at the highlights, I did like what I saw from him as far as still being able to get out there, rebound, still being a playmaker. I feel like he might. I think until he kind of gets himself fully back underneath him, he's going to lean into like the playmaking aspect of what he brings to the table a little more. I mean, I feel like once the shot starts falling down for him again, watch out. I think that's the biggest thing with Jason Tatum. I think you kind of sense that early on in the game too. Like I think he was hesitant as far as pulling the trigger. He was a little hesitant. But then once the shot started falling,
that
the
putback dunk.
the putback dunk, getting some shots to drop, the confidence. You can see the confidence start to grow in him a little bit. And he played 20 and he played 27 minutes. So he played a decent amount of minutes. It's a little bit less of what his average was when he was like at his peak before, the Achilles tear. But all in all, your first game back, you get 27 minutes. You put up 15, 10, and 7. That's not a bad line to come back first game 10 months from an Achilles tear. That's not a bad line at all. I think once he gets himself back underneath him, like I said, with guys like him, they're rhythm guys. So it's all about the shots dropping. When the shots start falling again for Jason Tatum, I think they're probably gonna. I could see with Joe Mazzulla and those coaches, I could see them like kind of like managing his minutes a little more to kind of keep him fresh because I feel like they're gonna want him around for this playoff run. They're gonna want him around. They're gonna need him. So because I mean he's gonna open like if he at his peak he opens up everything. You thought Jaylen Brown was dangerous without him. Imagine him with him. Granted, the scoring might drop down a little bit, but it's the gravity that Jason Tatum's going to carry with him, not just with Jaylen Brown, with guys like Peyton Pritchard, with a guy like Sam Hauser, opening himself up to get more threes, opening your bigs up, your guys
Derek
like
White.
Quaid up. Yeah, you got Derek White especially opening him up for threes, opening, being able to attack the rim, opening the lane for a guy like Neemias Quaid, getting him more easy shots on the inside. The gravity that Jason Tatum is going to be able to carry at, when he's like back and on his game is going to immensely help the Boston Celtics. So, because I remember that show we did I remember that show we was on. I think it was a basketball show a while back on Brandon after the finals, and they were talking about who's the MVP. And I'm gonna shout out SME himself. I'm gonna shout out Casual. I'm gonna shout out the subject matter expert. He said Jason Tatum. He said Jason Tatum should have been the MVP from the standpoint of the gravity as far as like what he did for everybody else on that floor. And hey, let me tell you something. You didn't think about that first because you just saw what Jaylen Brown did in those finals. That's a very logical point. because I really feel Jason Tatum, if he comes back, can really open the doors as far as like what this team can be as far as his full potential. And I like what the Boston Celtics bring to the table. The Boston Celtics are a threat. They were a threat before him, and I think they're going to be a threat. They're definitely more of a threat with him. I just want to see Joe Mazzulla. I want to see the coaches kind of manage him a little bit. I don't think you go full tilt on him just yet. You kind of see where his body is. You see where his legs are. You manage him. I think he should be on a game to game basis. He really should. If you want to sit him here and there, you do that because ultimately you're gonna need him in the playoff. So I think I trust Joe Mazzulla to be smart with Jason Tatum as far as managing him going forward for the rest of the season and into the playoffs. But all in all, in that first game, to be as rusty as he was, I really, really enjoyed what I saw from him,
Champ?
They're only 3 games behind the Detroit Pistons.
which is crazy.
They're only 3 games behind the Detroit Pistons. And the Detroit Pistons, they ain't been looking so good sometimes. Last couple of games.
Especially the one against San Antonio in which Wemby went off.
I'll give him a pass on that. They didn't have Cade. I'll give him a little bit of a pass.
So yeah. You're 3 games behind the Detroit Pistons, and that was without Jason Tatum. So can you imagine once he gets to full speed? And they brought him back at just the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember the whole 40-20 rule by Phil Jackson? Y'all don't remember that rule?
I think
the biggest contenders reach 40 wins before they reach 20 losses.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What did the Boston Celtics do even without Jason Tatum?
They got the 40 wins before 20 losses.
Before they reached 20 losses. So we have to start talking. Like I said, I hate Boston with a passion. There's more. There's 2 teams that I just despise with a passion. And that's 3: the Aints, the Duke Blue Devils, and the Boston Celtics. Those are teams that I despise. But you have to give credit what credit is due.
And you didn't even pick the Cowboys.
No.
Question for y'all. As of this point right now, who's your NBA MVP?
Jaylen Brown.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Jaylen Brown's mine too.
Jaylen Brown, because he just got his tag team partner back. He just got him back. Where did they get to the 40-20? Where did they reach that 40-20 Phil Jackson rule? They got that with Jaylen Brown. Plus, there's no Al Horford. There was no Porzingis. There was a lot of injuries on that team throughout the season. Jaylen Brown. And I'll say this, like I stated this last week, I believe, and I don't mean to regurgitate the same information, but the real reason why Jaylen Brown is not more of an MVP corporate in conversations, is he's not the corporate version of the NBA. He is an independent shoe guy. He thinks independently. He's about activism even more and on a large scale. He's essentially the reincarnation of kind of like Bill Russell, but in the form of a different position. And that is the reason why he's not. There a lot of MVP talks has to do with you being a media darling. If you don't believe that, just ask the late great Kobe Bryant. If you don't believe that, just ask, because there was plenty of years after the Shaq years, he should have won at least 2 to 3 MVPs. But instead, that 2008 season, when they was able to do a lot of
there were times also too, Champ. Shaq should have won more than 1 MVP. Remember, people look at the years that Steve Nash won the back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah.
But you can't go wrong with Shai, Champ, because again, still with the numbers, 31-6. And unfortunately, if you look at it right now, Shai's leading the MVP. Then of course you're still not gonna ignore Jokic.
No.
I would at this point, I would personally, from an impact standpoint, from a team standpoint, I would put Jaylen Brown and Cade Cunningham in front of both of those. Right, in terms of impact for their teams. I would put Jaylen Brown and Cade Cunningham in front of SGA and Jokic right now.
Right, but is it probably going to happen?
I mean, it depends on how those teams continue to play as the year progresses.
And plus, remember, I think unfortunately with Cade, look at the last 2 losses against San Antonio. Now you can make the argument for Cade Detroit has the number one record in the Eastern Conference. Don't they have like the best defense in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken?
I think right now they do. Yes,
Right.
I have to look it up, but I think they are. I think they are number one in defensive rating right now.
Mhm.
But they still, even though he's missed some games this season, and again, it could impact because of the 65 game rule. Shea can only miss Shea has missed what? How many games? 11. So if he misses like six more, that also plays a role. And still, Shea is averaging around 31.6, 4 and 6 on nearly 55% shooting, 38% from 3-point range, 89.5% from the free throw line. Oklahoma's still going to be number one seed. And plus, he's had to do it without the number third option on the team, which is Jalen Williams.
Yeah, he's doing it without him all year, pretty much.
Yeah. So that also adds another reason why for the MVP. And again, he's replicating the year from last year. Oklahoma with the number one seed. And plus, you've mentioned it before, champ, with the narrative. Oklahoma now winning a championship, no longer becoming the Seattle Supersonics. They're now their own, Oklahoma City. But yes, to your point with Jaylen Brown, he should get more consideration for the MVP, and that's because of his political stances. Not just that, champ. Remember the Olympics in 2024, when he was fresh off of winning the finals and finals MVP, he wasn't elected to play in the Olympics.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
So there you go. All right, fellas, let's get into our favorite subject on the Sports PSP podcast. That is baby, face, or heel. Now, for those who may not know what babyface heel means in wrestling terminology, babyface is a good guy, a heel is a bad guy, and a tweener is someone in between babyface or heel. Des Bryant.
He's a tweener for me. He's a tweener for me. I'm because I don't know some of his. I guess being out of the league, some of his stances that he's taken, I don't necessarily like agree with some of his stances that he's taken, but I think he's a tweener just from the standpoint of like when you look at what he did on the field for the Dallas Cowboys and how good of a wide receiver he was, but in the fact that he showed up week in, week out, no matter the situation, he balled. It was a catch. I don't support the Dallas Cowboys that much, but if you hear me say something like, if you hear me say that, you know which playoff game I'm talking about. It was a catch. Argue with your mama. That was a catch against the Green Bay Packers. So for what it's worth, but but yeah, for me, he's a tweener. Yeah, just some stances I haven't necessarily agreed with. I've agreed with him on some of his stances. Some of his stances I don't agree with. But in terms of just on the field, you couldn't question the work ethic. You couldn't question the effort. You couldn't question what he gave you week in and week out, being the number one, being the X for the Dallas Cowboys. Just just the impact that he made and how good he was for as long as he did it down there. Yeah, I ain't gonna make it too long, but yeah, for me, Des Bryant's a tweener.
Big fella.
Tweener. You know, especially after he said what he said about when he was in the league about Colin Kaepernick's stance about the kneeling. When he said the first thing that he said, "Well, I got a family to feed," because remember on the Dallas Cowboys, you know, Jerry said if you kneel for the anthem, then you must
Hand
not
on your hard toes on the line.
Yes. So he said that, you know, hey, I got a family to feed, and you know, my people has been done more damage to me than any other. You know, we think about a lot of things that he have said back then versus now. It's like a 360. But at the same time, like I always say, 1,000 attaboys is erased by one aw shit. So that was his. There was a few aw shits in his lifetime, but
Mm,
I think now it has gotten progressively better. And it's not just because someone agrees with you that we say it's getting better. It's all about logic and fairness. It's about
mm-hmm.
logic and it's about fairness. So his logic and fairness has gone up. His self awareness is better. And I admire the fact that hey, he's still a big part of the Cowboys, although he's hasn't played for them for years. So hey, I admire what he has done. He was deadly during his time. Dez Bryant was one of the 88s, part of the 88 club. I mean, from Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin to himself, and now CeeDee Lamb. Hey, gonna be interesting to see who is the true 88. But to
It's
be part
something.
of that
It's something
88,
about that number. It's something about
hey,
that number in Dallas, boy.
hey, look, but the thing is that number is synonymous with one person, Michael Irvin.
Hmm.
Either you got it. That's how come he said, "I never want 88 to be retired," because every time somebody drop a ball, they say, "Hey, Michael Irvin wouldn't have dropped that ball." Every time that somebody catches a ball, they say that's exactly how Michael Irvin would have caught it. So Dez Bryant is tweener, and I feel like sometimes he really did get a bad rap in the NFL as far
Oh,
as
do you remember Jeff Ireland, the former GM?
yes, I'm surprised. Let's just move on after that. That was
Yeah,
Hmm.
but remember what he asked? Certain
yeah,
questions about Des.
that is grounds. What did me and my God bless his soul, my brother. That's grounds to you to get danced on, and I'm not talking about
Hmm.
Magic City wise. That's grounds for you to get danced on. So I'm just gonna be real. So yeah, I will
I
never
don't know how
ever
they
forget
let. I don't
that.
know how they let
And
GMs
I've
get
never
away with some of
looked.
them
They
questions.
don't ask questions like that in standard job interviews. And granted, if they would, I guarantee you there will be a lot of furniture moving when it comes to that. And
Mm.
yeah, not to mention, everybody was getting on him about him yelling on the sideline, but when they understood what was going on, oh, passion, passion, passion. Well, if you took the time to realize what was going on with a lot of these wide receivers, you'd understand it's a lot more passion than them just being a diva. Like I stated before, I feel like a lot of wide receivers get a bad rap because they're quote unquote divas, versus quarterbacks. They get to stand around there, yell, scream, and cuss out their damn coach, and then nothing is said about it. But at the end of the day, quarterback is the leader of the team. Wide receiver, you're just rolling behind with what the quarterback is saying. But yeah,
I say tweener. Des did have some controversial issues. I hated the fact that he fell all the way late in the first round because before, remember the situation that he was involved with regarding Deion Sanders during his final year at Oklahoma State. Des Bryant was projected to be a top 10 pick in that 2010 draft. And then look, he had some other off the field issues. Remember there was the one incident with him and his mom. But Des Bryant,
Hmm.
so far throughout his career, he turned it around. Even though I didn't agree with what he said about the Colin Kaepernick thing. Hey, I got a family to feed too. But overall, but when it came to on the field, Des brought a lot of passion, a lot of fire, rage. He was great with the 50-50 ball. Like he was one of the best red zone threat receivers during his time. And remember the Texans game in which Tony Romo threw like a crazy pass, and then Dez made a hell of a catch in that game. I believe it was in like an overtime. This was during the year in which the Cowboys went 12-4 and then lost to the Green Bay Packers, as BRF put it. Well, it wasn't the catch wasn't a catch. So when I look at Dez Bryant during that time, he was in that conversation for the best wide receivers in the NFL. There was Calvin Johnson, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. Dez was in that conversation, and he balled out the first year and he balled out in 2014. He broke Terrell Owens' record for the most touchdown receptions in Cowboys history. He also made first team All Pro that year, leading the NFL in touchdown receptions. So when I look at Dez Bryant, I say tweener because again, you gotta look at some of the off the field issues, but so far he has turned it around, and he's still a part of the Dallas Cowboys.
yes, indeed.
So, all right, next one, champ. Hopefully, we'll bring back BRF on the show. Um, Stefan Diggs.
I look, he's a heel, but you know, it's just like I stated, man. I don't know who else I said this about because it's kind of like the Rasheed Rice thing. He just always into something. It's just like he's always into something. You know, with all it's not just all of the baby mamas. It's not just all of that because we have to acknowledge that's just not exclusive to one ethnic group. We've seen Tom Brady and he's had multiple baby mamas and stuff like that. But with Stephon Diggs, it's not just that. You got your way out of Minnesota because you didn't want to stay at Minnesota. You got yourself out of Buffalo because you were beefing with Josh Allen and they were able to go to a Super Bowl without you. Well, excuse me, he was able to win the MVP without you. Not to mention, you got to think about this. You on the boat with Cardi B, and then you bringing out all of you acting like you on Grand Theft Auto Vice City. We'll leave it like that. Then on top of that, you finally, you get with Cardi B and then you have your trouble right before the damn Super Bowl, where you couldn't wait until after the Super Bowl. Damn. It's so the reason I like him with him because the shit that he does is just so comical that it's just like, bro, what the hell do you be doing? Now you're released, and it's just like, bro, you couldn't wait to pump a jump until after the Super Bowl. Like, bro, I don't know what you're doing. Then you had the other girl there. It's like, bro, what the Stephon Diggs, bro, what are you doing, bro? But hey, man, it goes back to what his teammates in Minnesota said, bro. Who is the girl? Who is the guy on the team that you at least like to date your sister? And they all said
Every
Stephon Diggs.
single
Well,
one of
one
them.
would be Stephon Diggs, and it was just like, bro, damn. You could work. I mean, how's a firecracker? Just can't wait, bro. Come on, man. You got to do better stuff on Diggs, man. Like I said, I'm a fan of his because of what he does on the field. He's very, very passionate. And man, look, I will never forget that game when he threw the helmet after the New Orleans Saints game, and he threw
Indianapolis
the helmet
Miracle.
up in the stands. And that was beautiful. But man, Stephon Diggs, bro, you have got to do better with being careful with your body, bro. You got to be careful with your body. You got to be careful with things that you're allowing to happen in your life, man. It's kind of like crazy. I understand that, you know, hey man, when you on top of the world like that, I should shudder to think how it would feel for you to just have ultimate access to everything. Because when you have access to everything, nothing is off limits. But at certain times, man, you got to understand that there's a lot of discipline that goes along with that, and you got to have that discipline. But Stephon Diggs, bro, you got to calm it down, man. You got to calm it down. Got to. I mean, but I mean, hey,
What's he can't get right?
well, no, that's Rasheed Rice. But I mean, look, man.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to say. I can't give you a real nickname.
Blueface?
I don't know. Blueface.
He
That's
got a
one.
bunch of them. That kind of fit.
It kind of fit. Blueface is one of those guys that I'd love to meet him in the dark alley so I kick his ass, but just 'cause he has a huge mouth. It's like, bro,
He do. Blueface do got a mouth on him.
he's like, you got
Yeah,
he's
you
like,
right
I
about
just
that.
love to just meet you in the dark alley one day with no cameras around so I could just beat your ass like you stole something and then just leave out that alley. And you ain't got to tell somebody that I beat your ass. It's just, but it's weird, bro. It's like, bro, just because you have the power to do something doesn't mean. And plus, like I said, man, you had Cardi, you ain't have to do that. But it says a lot, bro. Hey, I ain't gonna go there. But it just says a lot, man, when you keep when the I'll say this, and I it's gonna require a lot of comprehension when I say this. Look, ladies, listen to me. Just because you go around the corner after being bit by a dog doesn't mean that that dog you just meet when you go around that corner is not that same dog. Just because that new dog is a Doberman and that last dog was a bulldog. If you really look at Offset and Stephon Diggs, they pretty much the same dog. And we have an old saying about things like that down south. Never let the same dog bite you twice. And just because that dog look different doesn't mean it ain't that same dog. So I would use this as a teaching moment for the ladies. It is International Women's History Month. Be careful about the dogs that you're running into, and you know, be careful to make sure that these dogs ain't by you, because him and Offset was one and the same. It's just like, damn, Carter, you just had to get bit twice by those guys. And people be cheering that shit on too. Yeah, go get it. And then all of a sudden, oh, see, I told you. But
Mhm.
it's just like
Doesn't that also
Mhm.
show you that Russell Wilson is not as bad as a man as people say
Russell
he
was
is?
never that bad. The problem is this, man. Look,
No,
the
but here's the thing, Chip. The reason why I say Russell Wilson, if you were with a man like a Russell Wilson or a Clay Thompson, you probably wouldn't be in that situation.
yeah, but it goes down to what are you willing to sacrifice? I mean, a lot of people are willing to sacrifice peace for a little bit of excitement.
Mhm.
Just being real. I mean, and look, hey, let me just be real. For every one Russell, for every one Clay, there's a million of Stephon Diggs and Offset, bro. And I'm gonna just be real. It's a rarity, but I mean, and people talk about how Russell Wilson is, but he ain't making Sierra look stupid. You ain't got to hear about him when she go out somewhere. She ain't got to worry about him. So I mean,
But to your point, what does it say about the types of men that you're with? If you're with those types of men, then what does that say in your taste?
look, I'll say this. I try not to tell on myself on live television, but I'm gonna just be
You
real.
already told yourself on live television
I mean, I'm
anyway.
just gonna
What
be real.
difference would
Look,
it
man.
make?
Look, super. Hey,
You
man.
told on
Look.
yourself just by saying that.
Hey, look. Super. Look. A lot of times, Superman is addicted. A lot of times, Superman in the comic book, he couldn't avoid Harley Quinn. So a lot of times, hey, women are not the only ones who have their problems with running into to the Joker. Sometimes Superman runs into the Harley Quinn. So, and I've ran into my share of Harley Quinns. It's fun. It's fun as fuck. So, but at the end of the day, it's the success ultimate failure. So I'm not just gonna say the ladies are doing that shit, because, like I said, they call me the Superman, the Captain America of my group, and I've had a hard times in my younger days with Harley Quinn. But the shit was fun. The shit be fun as hell though, bro. But it's like it's that excitement. You sacrifice peace for a lot of excitement. So women ain't the only
uh,
one doing that shit. I used to do that shit in
uh,
my younger days. When I was at my peak,
uh,
when I was in my 20s, from like 21 to like 29, I was wild like hell. Look, just gonna be real. 9 times out of 10, from the ages of 21, well, from the ages of 24 to I was like 29, if you ran into me past the hours of 11 and 6 in the morning, I was more than likely drunk. So, and
mm,
that was for years straight. So, yeah, when
mm,
you're on the party scene like that, you run into a lot of Harley Quinns. And for women, you run into a lot of jokers at this point. I use comic analogies because I read a lot of them, but this shit is fun. But you have to wise up at an old age and say, hey, at a later age, I would say, not necessarily old age, a later age, and feel like, hey, that's not really the thing for me. And the thing is, what you're picking is what's in you.
mm,
That's the thing. People don't like to acknowledge that. Well, what you're picking is what's in you already. You just That's just your outlet for expressing it. So
yeah.
what was in me already, that wild ass spirit, that party spirit, I'm gonna drink all night long. I'm gonna go get my Ric Flair on. I'm gonna go act wild. That was in me as it was in them. It was just like, hey, you put that together. You put two wild ass people together. It's not gonna work out as much as you think.
Mm,
Like I
right.
stated, what we pick is in us. It's not just what we pick, it's what we choose within, what we choose within ourselves. And a lot of time, what we pick is within us. Like I stated, I ran into a lot of Harley Quinns in my lifetime, and that shit is fun. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people who dated me probably considered me as the Joker of their life. But it was fun. But at the end of the day, you have to pick better for yourself and you have to grow. So I don't blame Cardi for the excitement, and I don't blame Stephon Diggs for the excitement. What we pick is a lot of in us, and I don't blame them. Stephon Diggs, hell, if I'd have had Cardi, all right. So we two wild spirits, you know. Let's do it. Sometimes you fail, sometimes it don't. Not everybody can be Bonnie and Clyde, so let's just be very, very honest about it. So I mean, hey, what was in me, what is what's in them. So or what was in them or what was in me. I'm not gonna sit around here and that's like I don't ever when people ever ask me about previous relationship, I don't ever blame them. I blame a lot of that shit upon both parties because we both was wild as hell. Because you can't contain that. You at your peak when you in your 20s, even in your early 30s, and so you don't slow down at red lights when you're driving a Ferrari. You drive through that damn thing. So that's how that is. And when you're and I was just 21 and I was just in my 20s and stuff like that. And like I said, I wasn't making millions of dollars and stuff like that. And we wasn't doing all that. Can you imagine giving me millions of dollars at 26, 27 years old? Now I gotta navigate everything out there. That would have been a fucking disaster. And that would have
You
been
probably spend all night at Magic City.
no, it wasn't just that. It was like spending money on shit that you know you don't need.
The
Like
unnecessary stuff, the unnecessary
yeah,
spending.
the unnecessary stuff, the over exertion, thinking money was
Hmm.
thing. When you get into people always want to talk about money in relationship nowadays, and people don't realize you can have the bag and still be settled for it right about now. You can have a big old bag and still get settled for it. But yeah, a lot of the things that we pick are in us. And we don't like to acknowledge that because that's too much like acknowledging. What was in me, what was in them was in me. We was all wild and we was all acting crazy and we was all drinking Don Julio by the damn gallons every damn day. So it was just like, hey, it is what it is. But you just can't blame that on a lady. Tell a lot of look, I'm gonna just be real. It's International Women's History Month, bro. Let's just be real.
You being nice.
No,
You
no, no,
being
no.
truthful.
I'm just gonna be real.
Yeah, but I'm
Let's
sorry.
not let's
No,
not put
no,
all
but
of that
champ,
on the ladies about picking
I'm not put.
because
I'm
I
not.
used
But
to love them wild ass girls. My mom used to get onto my ass about that because I
you,
was in college. I was trying to study abroad. I was trying to do about that. I wore a tie everywhere I went to. Every time I went to work, and every time I introduced her to
but in the
yeah,
words of Lala, you keep picking up them type of men. I mean, you keep picking
yeah.
up the type of people with them ugly personalities.
But look, but the shit was fun. I'm just gonna be real. When you're in
That
your
don't mean I gotta try it.
Of course you have to. Of course you must. But of course. And look, I was hard headed as hell when I was in my 20s. So the first thing that I was gonna do, if you told me not to eat,
Yeah.
if you told me not to eat the one chip challenge, I was gonna eat two, three
You
of
gonna
them.
eat it? You gonna do it?
No, I'm gonna eat two, three of them. That's the
You?
point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that was the thing. So I cannot tell you how many Harley Quinns I didn't ran into, but the shit was fun. And when we broke up, it was cool. We broke off and we did our own thing. One no hard feelings, but these days everything is kind of like on another level. So I mean, like I said, we just can't blame the women for
I'm
the
not saying
bullshit,
I'm not saying I'm
but
blaming all.
because
I'm
you
not saying I'm blaming all
because
the
you're
women,
looking
champ.
at a guy who loved Harley Quinn, and the reason why I like Cardi B is because she reminds me
Because
she
that's
has
the
that
type of
Harley
woman
Quinn
that.
syndrome.
But what is it? But
Bruh.
champ, at the same time, what does it also say about Cardi B in terms of the type of men that you're with?
And and
You
and
want to
and,
be with the
and
type of
looking
men.
and Cardi B looking the way Cardi B look. I mean, come on, man. I mean,
Yeah, but at the same time, if you know you're a catch, if you're a catch, you shouldn't be settling for them type of men who continuously disrespect you and treat you like that. Essentially, what does it say also about you?
Yeah,
If you allow them to disrespect you like that, then you're also disrespecting yourself. And
yeah,
what I'm trying to say is Cardi deserves better than that.
yeah.
that's
She
true.
does. And
Very
like
true.
like I said, I put it in a different perspective. Women aren't the only ones that do that shit. Where you go for these I call them Mustangs. Like I said, Harley Quinns, and then you go, women ain't the only one that do this shit. Like I said, you're talking to a
Oh yeah,
guy.
men do that stuff
You
too.
know, you're talking to a guy that, like I stated, if you look at my friend group, they will tell you, you are the Superman of our group. You are the Captain America of our group. You are the war hero of our group. You very, very prestigious. You're educated. You're this. What the hell were you doing with those cats? What were you doing? I'm like, well, it was fun. So it was just like, okay, the fun outweighed the bullshit. So it was fun. Like I said, if look, can you look? I'm just being real shit. If I was Stephon Diggs, I was famous. I'd have went for Cardi too. Shit. Hey, man, that chaotic shit be fun sometimes. That chaotic shit be fun.
I mean, as
I wonder what chaotic shit would you be if you actually were in an entanglement with Jada
Bro, if
Pinkett?
I was diabolical back in my younger days, so we gotta leave it at that.
I'll,
I was a little
I'll
sneaky little character, and we were gonna the tie and the smile and the glasses will fool a lot of people. So I will just be honest with you. So yeah, so I'm not gonna
as
lie,
a
it was
as a man who is a girl dad at the cause of one of those chaotic kind of relationships, I understand. I understand completely. I understand completely.
yeah, man. Chaos was good. Look, chaos can be fun a lot of times. It's just when you don't have enough order or balance in order to get it back right. So yeah, sometimes like I said, that's why I come out like Cardi B, because guess what? Had I been famous when I was 26, 27, maybe even 28 years old, yeah, I could have saw myself with Cardi. But I'm 39 now. I'm a little bit more calm. I don't drink anymore. I don't indulge anymore. I don't do none of that stuff that I used to do when I was in my younger days. So in my heydays, when I was the guy who you see now is different from Stay Scheming. They call me that name for a reason. They call me Stay Scheming for a reason.
Mm-hmm. That's all
So,
day. That is all I need to know
so
as far as what was going on back in them days.
they call me Stay Scheming back then for a reason. So, with that being said, I don't blame a lot of the I don't blame the women for a lot of the chaotic things that they go for, because I went for those, and you could best believe a lot of other dudes did too. So,
That's
shout out to
because you
them.
love them wags.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's fun. And the aesthetics is good as well. So a lot of stuff you will put up with because it's just like the aesthetics and it's fun. I mean, it could be the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in the same day. It's kind of like having a car accident and having a headache all at the same time. So it's kind of like that's how crazy it can be. But like I said, I don't think it's fair to put it all on you got to choose better women, because hell,
Well,
hey,
I mean,
a lot of
no, I
wild,
mean,
a lot of
well,
wild shit happens when you are having like that Bunny and Clyde dynamic. Both of y'all wild. It's like, okay,
I think at some point in time, Chip, it comes to a point because Sierra, look, after what she went through with all them type of men, finally she went down and settled with a guy like Russell Wilson. And say what you want about Russell Wilson being Captain America and all that, family man, good man, treats his family, treats his wife, kids with the utmost respect, doesn't get involved with any predicaments, doesn't get involved with any scandals. Clay Thompson, he was Megan Thee Stallion. And last time I checked, we don't hear any controversies regarding them.
you know,
So my thing is, you got to be smart with the type of men that you're with. Yeah, I can understand that'd be fun with time to time, but evidently it does come to a point how you want to be treated, how you want to be perceived. That also plays a role as well.
that is legitimately fair.
BRF, what do you think on Stephon Diggs? Is he babyface, tweener, heel?
Oh, ain't nothing tweener about that Negro. He is a heel. He is a heel. He is a flat out heel. Now don't get me wrong. That man I say has been one of the more productive receivers of the 21st century. Don't get me wrong. Like his last couple of years in Minnesota, and then how it translated into the career he had with the Buffalo Bills. He's definitely been one of the more productive guys in the league. But he's a heel, because let me tell you something. I want you to hear. Hey, just because your last name is don't necessarily mean you have to live up to your namesake. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Like I'm just, that's just, we just gonna put that out there. But for me, he's a heel just from, for me, he's a heel just from the standpoint of just like it's really just a guy with his type of talent and the money that he's made for himself and the way he's been in the public eye. Some of the, like, his decisions, his women decisions have just been like bro, like, no, like, I mean, Champ brought it up, when the Minnesota Vikings had that social media thing where they asked
all them players,
the entire team. Which guy on your team would you least likely to date your sister? I mean, it was Stephon Diggs in a landslide. That should tell you all you need to know about this man, and the fact that you've seen it play out in the public eye. The Minnesota Vikings at the time were obviously not lying the way it's played out in the public eye. So, I mean, just I don't know. He could have done so much better as far as like his decision makers. I mean, you already know you don't you already know you have your fair share of baby mamas. I know this. Now, a woman like Cardi B, granted, she's not exactly the most innocent, but at the same time, she's trying to ground herself. You can tell in her mindset and like her conversations, she wants to ultimately settle down, have a family. I mean, she tried to damn this with Offset, and it just never worked. And then you should have been like, that should have been it. And then it's just the decision making. Like, it's like you lose the Super Bowl and you lose your girl like on the same weekend. Like the whole baby mama thing, sitting in the front row of the game, that shouldn't have even been a discussion. That shouldn't have even been an issue. Why are you doing that? I mean, I understand, if y'all are cool, that's fine. That's great. I'm still cool with my daughter's mom. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. But you still got to live your life at the end of the day. You got to move on past that at a certain point. You still got to live your life. You can't always be, for me, that's kind of like drifting backwards. And yeah, they are terrible, but that's a whole nother conversation. You can't always drift backwards like that in a situation like that. Me and my daughter's mom are still real cool. We talk, we still real cool. Am I ever gonna date her again? No freaking way. No chance. And there's no disrespect to her. It's just from the standpoint of you gotta move forward. You have to move forward on stuff like this. So the fact that he even still had her in the public eye in a situation like this was just crazy. And then just all of and then and then just all of the happenings as far as like the arrest and the beating the chef situation, whatever that was, and just, I don't know, man. For a guy who's as extremely talented as he is and as good as he's been over the past like number of years, your decision making is like bad, to say the least. And I'm being nice, just saying your decision making is bad, because I could use a lot worse terms than that. But for the benefit of those with YouTube and watching, we're not gonna do all that right now. So we just gonna try to keep it as PG as possible. We gonna try to keep it as PG as possible.
I don't know if we're gonna be more PG as possible with this next person I'm about to bring up.
Okay.
Sage Steele.
Next.
It's the fact with Sage Steele, when she was on ESPN, I had like the highest of hopes for her, because like, for one, you're a black woman in America, for one, and the fact that you have a job as high profile as being a Sports Center anchor and being a really good one at that, it's like, come on, man. Like, regardless of us three, we are for the culture, 150%. We are for the culture. Always, we'll always be that. and she is like undoubtedly 1,000% unequivocally heel. Unequivocally, she's heel. I mean, she left ESPN and just lost her damn mind. She lost
I
her
mean,
mind.
did she really have her mind even when she was at ESPN?
I don't.
Remember
I
the
think.
airport?
I
Remember the
think on the.
airport situation?
Remember what she said
Yeah,
about Greg Hardy?
yeah. I was getting ready. You know what? Yeah, on the back end of her ESPN career, she was losing it then. So it's like, and then you just see her and just the people she touts and speaks for and tries to speak highly of, and just she's okay for the better. We'll just say for the better
Not
part
to
of this
mention that
conversation,
she's
she's
doing
one of
interviews
those.
with Jason Whitlock.
That's I was getting ready to say. She's one of those. She's one. She's one of those. She's one of those. It's like they will they will stop at nothing to say what our community is doing wrong, what we need to fix, what we need to do, what we need to do there, but won't speak on nobody else's downfalls. We'll speak on nobody else's. We trust y'all, trust us as black people in America. We are so used to this, we are almost numb. We're almost numb to it. So and just like I don't know, like people like her, like Jason Whitlock, like the people like that who still have a public platform and are able to speak and just are allowed to spew the nonsense that they spew without a lot of repercussions. It's just I don't know, I don't know, and the one thing, the one common theme I hear with people like that is, oh, so why are you mad that they're just coming out and they're being like free thinkers and all this other stuff? I'm like, so why is free thinkers only associated for people who speak and defend that side of the aisle? And that's the part that still kind of gets me more than anything, because because I'm one of those, I don't really lean either way. I kind of lean how I feel is going to benefit me and my people. Just so happens it leans one way. I don't like to consider myself one of those, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, we I want what's best for my folks. So I mean, hey, it is what it is, and just and someone like Sage Steele, just I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy where she's at right now. And now I think, from what I've understand, CBS wants her. So I think CBS wants her now. So it's like, great. That's the media in a nutshell. Sometimes it's like it doesn't matter who the person is, what they speak for, what they stand for. At the end of the day, can they draw eyes to the product? And that's honestly what a lot of these media outlets are about nowadays. So, but yeah, Sage Steele for me has become one of my. I hate to say this about her. She has honestly become one of my least favorite people on this earth, and it's crazy. And it's crazy to say, but she really has.
BRF, the reason why I asked, because last week when you weren't on the show, I asked Champ for Babyface heel. I mentioned Malika Andrews, and Champ and we said heel.
I would
Initially,
have to
I
agree with you.
initially I said tweener only because I was being generous, but when Champ said heel, I was like convinced, because how the way she portrayed Ime Udoka, portraying him as a sexual predator, the whole situation with Josh Giddey, how
What
her
did
and
it?
Stephen,
What did it for me with Malika Andrews?
the Brandon Miller.
The Brandon Miller story, putting that out there on draft night. This man is like getting ready to get drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, getting ready to live his dream, and you had to put that story out there on Front Street to take away from his moment. And she does that with a. I'm not trying to do anything. She does that a lot with us.
Not to mention,
So,
remember the Michigan State player Adrian Payne, who passed
mhm.
away, and then she brought up the accusations.
Yeah, she brought up the instead of focusing on the fact that this dude died, you want to bring up his bad stuff. Like, come on, man, come on. Like, I don't know, man. I can't.
No, I mean Sage
I don't know.
Steele and Malika Andrews. To me, they seem like a lot in common.
Mm. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And it just like I said, it's one of those things where it's like I feel like we're the only community that has to like answer for a few. Like a few does this, then it just puts the spotlight on all of us. Like, you see, we told y'all are like this, and it's like, really,
Really, really.
seriously, Yeah.
And again, you're doing interviews with Jason Whitlock, and also Jason Whitlock declaring himself. He declared himself as the best sports writer, maybe ever.
Y'all know how I feel about. I'm not repeating what I said about Jason Whitlock. Y'all know how I feel about Jason Whitlock. I'm gonna just keep that at that.
Big fella.
Let me see. Do I really want to waste time talking about Sage Steele?
You could just say next.
But I said that, but I just don't want to waste time, and she's not even worth the efforts of either one of us, to be honest with you. And all of the stuff that she really says, much like Jason Whitlock, she's the female version of Jason Whitlock, a lot of bullcrap and a lot of, in the great words of Jim Cornette, a lot of other buffoonery comes out of her mouth. And it's like, I understand being fair and impartial. That is your job in the media, to be fair and impartial. But when it gets to a point where you're always, it gets ridiculous at a certain point, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, moving along. It's like you're attacking the former first lady, and yeah, I don't know what to say about some of these reporters. It's just like I really feel like journalism has really gone out of the window at this point, and a lot of times you get a lot of points for either attacking someone in the media or being this biased, very very biased individual who doesn't really see. Dwayne, I'm gonna get you, bro.
Dwayne, my guy.
Ew.
Dwayne, Dwayne, why you had to distract me like that, bro?
Lord have mercy. Holy shit.
Why you had to distract me like that? Good God, that is a rough. I can't even talk no more. Damn. I can't even talk no damn more.
Actually,
I can't even talk no
all right,
more. Shit.
fellas. But speaking, undisputed world champ. Speaking of which,
Oh my god.
speaking about a guy who's not about journalism and about integrity, one Stephen A. Smith. I told you he's a heel. Y'all initially y'all had him at a tweener. I'm starting to feel like y'all more convinced to say heel. Did y'all see his response about the New Orleans Pelicans?
Oh, the fact that he's bigger on social media than a lot of the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yes.
Outside
of Zion.
He disappoints me more than Sage Steele and Jason Whitlock. He disappoints me more than either one of them because I felt like neither one of them was really on our side like that. He was. And it just feels like it's just like he's slowly fading away. Well, not slowly anymore. I am more disappointed in him than the other two. Because I used to hold Stephen A. Smith in high regard, especially when he first came and was in ESPN and doing his stuff like that. It was like, okay. Yeah, quite the Quite Frankly show. Like when he first appeared on, like when it was Cold Pizza and it ultimately became First Take, when he first got on that show and was really kind of, he felt like he was more of a voice of reason on that show. And it's like when the money started rolling in and the popularity started going up, his head got big. Now he's talking about running. Now he's talking about a presidential run in 2028 and all this other BS that he's talking about.
His forehead is already that big. I mean, look.
Don't even get me started about the forehead, man. That dude don't have dreams. He have movies.
This whole thing started when he talked about Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson was on ESPN's NBA Today with Malika Andrews, and Zion talked about how difficult it has been for him regarding the rehab, the injuries, the criticism of his weight. And Stephen A. Smith brought up the fact how people have been addicted to a lot of things. Zion's addiction was food. how he got busted for hiding food underneath his bed. Um, to which the Pelicans organization, they trolled him on social media by showing some videos of Stephen A. Smith airballing some jump shots with him and James Harden, or the baseball pitch, or him shadow boxing. And even Stephen A. Smith took the time to respond to all of that. My thing is, two things could be true. What he said about the Pelicans as an organization, they're just awful. Because 24 years since they've moved from Charlotte to New Orleans, they've only won 2 playoff series. They still haven't been to a conference finals, let alone an NBA finals. And I think it's time for the Pelicans at this point just to move on from Zion Williamson. I'm sorry. For whatever reason, the Zion Williamson experiment has failed in New Orleans. It's just time to move on and
I
start
don't
fresh.
I don't think he's a good I don't think he's really that kind of a fit anymore for what they're trying to do in New Orleans anyway. I
Right.
mean, you got Trey Murphy, you got Derek Queen, Derek Queen is turning into a monster for them. It's just what they're trying to do. I'm with you. Zion needs to move. I mean, he needs to move on. He's not a fit for what they're trying to do schematically anymore anyway.
But at the same time, I piggyback everything to what Michelle Obama, the first lady, said about ESPN and First Take. Remember last year? Remember, champ? Remember when Michelle Obama was on her podcast and she talked about ESPN being the Real Housewives of Atlanta and Stephen A. Smith being a potential housewife? Because that's where ESPN is nowadays. Because when you see these ridiculous takes, and Lord and behold, good Lord, thank the good Lord, L. Duncan is out of ESPN after
Thank
what
God, I'm
happened with
telling you.
that lousy Kendrick Perkins take. I've said it before. Kendrick Perkins is the type of person who, if he's cooking my breakfast, I throw it in the trash. That's how awful he is when it comes to his
And
basketball or sports takes.
and I've been a fan of Elle Duncan for years, going back to like when she was on 790 to Zone doing the Two Live Stews with Doug and Ryan Stewart in Atlanta. I've been a fan of hers for years, bro. So I'm like any type of upward movement for her, and I follow her on Twitter and IG and all that stuff. I've been a fan of her for years. She is so good at what she does. So any upward trajectory for her, I'm supporting 1,000%.
Because Stephen A. Smith, what he did, what he said about the Pelicans organization is true. Because as an organization, they are just not a good organization. They now just won their 20th game. They're probably going to end up in purgatory. They're going to end up having a top pick in the draft. They got to move on from Zion Williamson because at this point, no matter what you can do with Zion Williamson, for whatever reason, it has.
Real quick before you move on, they're not going to end up with a top pick because we're going to have their pick. We have their pick. It's the better
Oh, I'm
pick
sorry.
it's the better pick between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Milwaukee Bucks. They're not going to have it because we're going to have it.
But bottom line is, look, what he said about the Pelicans as an organization is true. But at the same time, Stephen A. Smith, did you have to take the time to respond? Of all the things you could have done, you chose this to respond to the Pelicans organization.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me how extremely sensitive that you are. And it also tells me what Michelle Obama has been saying about you and ESPN has been pretty much true. And again, for Michelle Obama, of all people, to actually say that, because again, normally you hear sports takes when you hear it from Barack. For her to say that about ESPN, that should really let you know exactly how you are as a network and an organization. And with Stephen A. Smith, because it's not about journalism, it's not about reporting, it's not about that type of stuff. It's about giving ridiculous, stupid, ridiculous, outlandish takes, and that's what we're doing with ESPN. It's not about journalism. We miss the good old days of Rest His Soul Stuart Scott or John Clayton or Chris Mortensen. But nowadays, this is what we are with ESPN. No journalism. It's just lousy takes. And with Stephen A. Smith, it doesn't change you. Money doesn't change you. It makes you more than what you already are. So he was already this. Now with the money and everything else, he's becoming even more of what he is. And it's just embarrassing because, wait a minute, dude. Look, the Pelicans, they trolled you. All you could do is just move on. Move on, let it go. Why are you paying attention to what the Pelicans organization is doing by them trolling you? Tells me how extremely sensitive you are. He just can't help himself. He just can't help
He got to
himself.
speak on something. He got to speak on something. He
Well,
got
because
to make himself heard.
he got to make himself heard because this is his way to try to earn his money, try to get his clicks, try to get his ratings or whatever. Again, everything that Michelle Obama said was right on the nail. I couldn't have said it any better than Michelle Obama. ESPN is like reality TV. It's like Love and Hip Hop. It's like Housewives of Atlanta. It's like Kardashians or something like that. It's not about the actual sporting and events. And again, when we pay attention to ridiculous situations like that, we're taking away great moments from coveraging the WNBA, the NBA, the MLB, the NFL. There's a lot of other things. There were other things you could have discussed or talked about. Instead, you chose that because Stephen A., you just can't help yourself. Your ego is so damn huge. Is as huge as Jason Whitlock's appetite.
Apparently, it's a refrigerator. Thank you, Dwayne.
But I did like the fact that Stephen A. Smith. I did like the fact that Stephen A. Smith was talking about the food part. What he said about Zion with the food part, that is kind of true though, because when Mariah Mills of all people is exposing you and telling you that you need to lose weight and exposing your soda addiction.
Not that wisdom tooth. Oh, Jesus.
But again, Stephen A. Smith, he could have just said, you know what? I'm not going to let the Pelicans organization bother me. I'm Stephen A. Smith. I'm doing all these things. You're bragging about how you are bigger than them, how you own your own brand, how you own it. It's like, dude, you got to bring up everything that you have just to act as if you're better than everybody else. I mean, it sounds like to me you really have some serious insecurities about
yourself.
Yeah,
he's very insecure. He's very insecure. If you know you're great, why do you have to talk about it?
The greats don't talk about
the greats don't talk about it. The greats do not talk about it at all. I know he probably laughing at my wisdom tooth comment, but that's a whole nother conversation.
No, he's laughing about the part when I mentioned that Mariah Mills exposed Zion Williamson. I mean, it looks bad when her.
Oh
when
yeah,
she telling
that too.
You that you need to lose weight, need to go on a treadmill, and you need to incorporate different things to your game. I mean, look, what he said about Zion with the food part is true because again, Zion brought that on himself. You are what you eat.
Exactly.
You are what you eat. But I want to hear what the big fella has to say.
All right,
don't let your mouth be closed like the refrigerator being closed.
Oh boy.
I have been taking myself off the air for the last 20 damn minutes because y'all, I can't even freaking talk, bro. The wisdom teeth comments. I cannot, bro. Y'all. This is what happens when you do shows with your friends. This is why when you go to work, the boss won't let you work with your friends because they know.
I'm telling you, you go to school and in the classroom and it's the same three fellas that you hang with all the time and they tell you about to move to the back because they put you in different on different aisles because you can't sit next to each other.
I'm just glad Flash ain't here because that would have buffed it up a little bit worse.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
But look, man. Don't take any advice. Don't take any criticism from people who you want to take advice from. I will say that. And Mariah Mills,
she ain't the one.
In 2016, I might have taken your advice, but unfortunately, in 2026,
I'm telling you, that ship sailed a long time
ago. And fellas, I'm gonna just be real. If you're gonna get into some trouble, make it be worth something. There's this thing that I used to have this thing that I used to always say. Does the fun outweigh the consequences? Does the fun outweigh the consequences? And if the fun outweighed the consequences, go for it. But if that fun, if that consequence outweighs the fun, then let it go. Of all people, Zion, man, I love you to life, bro. Mariah
20
Mills, the 2020
Mariah
version
Mills in
of
the
Mariah
big
Mills, like,
2026.
yeah, bro, you, in the great words of Sergeant Jackson, one of my favorite NCOs, brother, you got to tighten up your shot groups.
Do you have anything to say regarding Stephen A. Smith responding to the Pels PR?
No, because he didn't have to respond to that. I mean, everything he said about the organization was true. I don't really hold that against Stephen A. because, look, man, I'm going to just be real. If you're going to have a joke or two to spill about somebody, make sure that you got the credentials in order to back up your jokes. So I don't have as much blowback as you guys. That's him saying something about the Pelican organization. He's absolutely right. Like,
But what?
hey,
But what did I say? What Michelle Obama said
yeah,
about ESPN?
I have no
Did I
problem with
lie?
that as much. But if he, get in the game, but if you the Pelicans, if you're gonna clap back, make sure get in the game first. Get in the game, put up some points, and then you can talk about Stephen A. But y'all organization has been terrible. I mean, and you can't really talk about nobody if you ain't got nothing to talk about. So I ain't have a problem as much with it. I mean, hey, you spewing facts. Now, if you would have just wanted, I mean, people are going to talk about, how, Zion Williamson needs to tighten up. Yeah, I agree. I need to tighten up.
I need to
So
tighten up.
I need to tighten up. And, you know, PSP, you know more than anybody else about stuff that I'm doing now. But, you know, all
The only
advice is
person that
not
needs to tighten up is Mariah Mills because lately, yeesh.
lately. Hell, bro, like I said, 2016 Mariah Mills, yeah,
Oh, 2016 is a win.
yeah.
I don't know what the.
I don't know what happened, bro. Y'all, hmm but yeah, I ain't got no problem with it.
I
If it had
I
been
just
anybody else, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking right about now.
Well, I
I, I
guess. I
just think
guess.
I just
No, go
think
ahead,
with
PSP.
I just think with Stephen A. Smith, man, look, he just gave once again validation to what Michelle Obama has been saying about ESPN and reality TV, champ. Brian, if Brian Windhorst, if somebody trolled Brian Windhorst on social media, do you think he would take the time to respond the way Stephen A. Smith would? No,
Mm.
because he's like, I got bigger things to do. But with Stephen A. Smith, he just cannot help himself. What he said about the Pelicans organization is true. It was laughing. I was laughing about the part about Zion hitting food underneath the bed. I mean, like that was laughable in itself. But Stephen A. Smith again, your ego, dude, your ego, and this is why I call you a heel because you becoming more than what you already are. You're becoming difficult, and plus, even LeBron even talked to Zion off the air and called out Stephen A. Smith. Am I lying?
Nope, you're not lying. You're not lying. You're not.
So my thing is with Stephen A. Smith, he just can't help himself. He just has to say everything. Broad couldn't have said it any better. Broad Sports. Stephen A. Smith is an attention. You know what? I'm not going to use the W word, but you know what I mean by attention.
Junkie, an attention junkie.
Yeah, because Stephen A. Smith, the more I mean, he just loves to address and talk and talk. And plus, him trying to run for president of the United States in 2028. I mean, come on, man. Nobody with sense gonna vote for him. Y'all ain't gonna vote for him.
Mm-mm.
Whoa.
None the least bit.
I wouldn't vote for him for student council, much less president.
All right, fellas, let's finish these last two subjects. Favorite Bernie Mac moment. The
Seeing
show.
how Seeing how I'll let you go. 'Cause I'm about to say, seeing how he's like one of my top 3 favorite comedians of all time. I'm gonna let you
The
go.
Bernie Mac show. I love the show on Fox, especially when the part when he yelling at the children, "Who ate my goddamn piece of chicken?" I love that part. Him when he getting after the boy Jordan, but Bernie Mac the character, man. I loved him from the original Kings of Comedy. Him, D.L. Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey. He by far he was the funniest one out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from Def Comedy Jam, I did love that from him from Def Comedy Jam. Oh man, but the Bernie Mac show. That's what really stood out to me the most, though. That's what really stood out to me is when he finally had his own show. And by the way, he was kind of underrated on that show, Moesha, when he played Uncle Bernie, being the uncle to Moesha and Miles. So I kind of like that part, how he and Hakeem, rest his soul, Lamont Bentley, were bickering back and forth. But Bernie Mac, man, when you think of comedians, greatest comedians of all time, like I said, is Richard, Eddie, Bernie, Chappelle. I don't have him in order. Martin. Those are my top 5 comedians of all time. When you think of those comedians, that's those comedians when you think of. I mean, Bernie Mac also how he played the character on the Wayans brothers when Marlon was about to marry his sister. But Bernie Mac, man, just comical, man, just comical. Love him, miss him, man. What's your favorite Bernie Mac moment? BRF, I'll let you go.
Oh my gosh, I have so man like Bernie Mac is one of my favorite comedians of all time. I got too many. I got too many. Like his his Def Comedy stand up. Oh my gosh, stir it like coffee. Stir it like coffee. That's all I'm gonna say to that one. That one and like the in his first one, like the one that kind of introduced him to the world that you don't understand. Oh my
I ain't
god!
scared of
If
you.
y'all have not seen either of his Def Comedy Jam, yeah, I ain't scared of you. Yeah, boy, if you have not seen either of his Def Comedy Jam specials, y'all need to educate yourselves and y'all need to watch them pronto. Even though they're only about 5-6 minutes apiece, those are two of the funniest stand-ups I have ever seen in my life. Are both of his Def Comedy Jams. Because I used to have because my mom used to order like a while back when the VHSs was still like the thing, and Def Comedy Jam was putting out their like all-star VHS tapes. They would just put them all on. They kind of like all-star shows, like whether it was him or Chris Tucker or Ricky Harris or just any of those comedians from back in the early '90s and stuff like that. Man, yeah, my favorite moment of his is his original Kings of Comedy segment, because just from second one up until the one where he was like the ending where he's like, I bet you if you're in a conversation and you talking with a black person, they would say the MF word about 32 times and just and just ran off every single time. It's like one of the funniest, like, y'all, I'm telling you, y'all gotta watch this original King. The milk and cookies. Milk and cookies.
What a cookies and shit.
Milk and cookies.
Him downstairs.
Yeah.
Who the hell is
Him downstairs.
I ain't got no name. Well, I just go
like I ain't got no name.
I just go get the shit
like
myself.
bro, like let me tell you something. Like Bernie Mac, I'm telling you, boy, give that man 10 minutes on the stage with a microphone. I'm telling you, he would shut it down. And even like in some of his movie performances, like House Party 3, where he was Uncle Vesta. That scene when they was sitting at when he was sitting at the table with Simply Marvelous and Ronaldo Ray. I ain't gonna go too deep in that scene, but if you ain't seen that scene, you might want to watch that scene, because Bernie Mac gonna have your jaws on the floor laughing so hard. That's how funny that scene was. All I'm gonna say is jawbone. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Stuff like this from you, Riff.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Hilarious. And yeah, of course. Like, I think the reason why I think one of the main things what made it when Bernie, yes, the nephew stutter problem. That is one of my favorite go-to jokes of all time. The nephew stuttering. That is one of my favorite go-to jokes of all time. I think what makes the show so special as well is if you go back to the original Kings of Comedy, like you're saying, if you had the movie, they would do like the cut scenes in between each comedian segments. And one of those segments, those cut scenes in between the segments was Bernie talking about, DL got a show, Sid got a show, Steve got a show. How come I ain't got no show? And then he's like, boy, I'll take any network. I'll take TNT, I'll take UPN, I'll take USA. I mean, he was like, I'll take any network. And then here comes Fox. They give him his show, and then it's almost like he was getting ready. Like granted, you had Steve Harvey, you had Sid the Entertainer, you had D.L. Hewlett. It just felt like out of that four, Bernie Mac was about to really become the one out of that foursome. And the fact that he wasn't able to really fully enjoy that, the pneumonia, and he passed away, health issues and stuff like that. It really felt like he was about to become the one. Like the scene in Transformers, hey man. Boy, if I had a rock, I'd bust your head. But just like,
remember Head of State, him and Chris Rock?
Oh yes,
that was a good one.
You know Nico Jacobs? You know Nito Jacobs?
Yes.
You know Nito Jacobs? And then the dude look at him like, no, I don't know Nito. No, you don't know nothing about Nito Jacobs? I don't know nothing about Nito Jacobs.
Hey man. It's Reggie, motherfucker. Where my money at? Don't come up here with all this bullshit. You see I'm on TV.
Right. Like, no, the his intro to the movie where he's getting off the train, just slapping everybody in sight. And they come to him, they asking for this, bow. And then then the next person come over, asking for this, bow. And then at the end, the black guy come up. Like you think, okay, he might shake his hand or something. No, he gives him the biggest slap off.
He wound it up and
he wound it up and knocked him down. So like I said, I think me and P is pretty much the top 5 comedians of all time. We pretty much have the same 5. Like it's Richard Pryor, it's Eddie Murphy, it's him, it's Dave Chappelle, and it's Martin Lawrence. That's my 5 too. That is my 5. I feel like I feel like it's not universal, but I feel like the majority of people who really like follow comedy and love stand-up like we do, if you would have to do some convincing for me to have anybody else in your top 5 of stand-ups all time besides those 5 guys. I mean, it's just the energy they brought, the topics they discussed, but then the jokes and how they connected and how just naturally funny they all are. And Bernie Mac really just stands apart because it was like, he's from Chicago, but it's almost like he had kind of like a Southern flair about him, even though he's from Chicago. And it was just something that like
kind of had like that Mississippi flair.
Yeah, like he kind of had like a Mississippi kind of flair to him. And it's like we could relate more on the level with Bernie just because of how he carried himself. And like I said, like just for me, it was just his stand-up. And like I said, he had some really good he had really good movies, like performances, and just I think an underrated movie of his is Mr. 3000. I enjoyed that movie. Stan Ross, that was a good movie. If y'all ain't seen Mr. 3000, y'all need to watch that too. But yeah, man, like I said, yeah. But for me with Bernie, I just associate him with all the stand-ups because he just goes out there and he just wings it and he's just himself. And man, I'm gonna move on because I could talk about Bernie all day. That's how much I just admired his work and everything he did. I could talk forever about Bernie Mac. I laughed so hard at that man. I tell you what.
Champ.
Remember that scene in Who's the Man? That Dr. Dre and Ed Lover movie.
When they was in the barbershop.
It's cops. Look at you looking like before and after. I bet you better. I put 2 feet in your chest and 1 in your head. I think I'll never forget that scene in Def Jam's How to Be a Player. You know, I'm a kid.
Yeah. That scene where he walked in the house and talked about what it smelled like.
Yeah. Hey man, going back to House Party 3, man, I never forget when he tried to grab that plate from Ezel. He said, "So how them ladies get to eat right about that? Because they got guns and we got wars." That fell
Or remember when that woman said, "You black, dusty, rusty ass," and then
yeah.
he said, "Now I got to cut you."
Now I got to cut.
I got to catch you.
I expected some shit like this from you, Riff Raff. I'll never forget it. I use that at work sometimes when it's a very, very busy day. I
Mhm.
just say it out loud. I expected to do shit like this from you, Riff Raff. Oh man, Bernie Mac was one of the most funniest guys, if not the funniest guy in the world, man. That was the original Kings of Comedy. That was special, man. That was special, man. I don't think I let no disrespect to a lot of the comedians that we have now, but from the '80s all the way up to like I say 2010, that was the golden age of comedy. I mean, you had Andrew Dice Clay, you had a little bit of everybody. I mean, and they were coming out, and then Def Jam was the vehicle that started them all. And then, ironically, everybody who came from Def Jam, they either became a movie star or somewhat of a movie star. When you think about Curry, when you think about
Mike Epps, Chris
Mike
Tucker,
Epps, Chris Tucker, all
Guy
of those
Tori.
guys became mega stars. I mean, it wasn't just Earthquake; they became stars in no time. So, I mean, it was a real big thing. Bernie was one of those guys, man. He had the glasses and he had the look, man. That man could dress his ass off, man. He could dress his ass off. Bernie Mac was fresh.
Oh my God! Remember the
So
Players Club?
yeah, I was just about to bring him up, but you better get out of my face before you get swole.
There's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be
Uh,
trouble, trouble.
Mm-hmm.
you better wear your bulletproof vest all day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mama, get that. You too, you black mama. That was, but that was getting bucket naked. Remember that scene?
Boy, boy. Let me tell
Getting
you something.
bucket naked.
Bernie Mac is one of the few comedians I honestly God I still to this day, if something funny happened, I would try to do the voice and try to impersonate him. Like he
Getting
he
bucket
just
naked.
had that type of impact.
Bernie Mac was he like I said, he was smooth, he was flamboyant, he had charisma, and man, I mean,
He was
one of
rough
the fun,
though.
huh?
He was rough though. I mean,
Oh yeah.
especially how he was with them kids on the Bernie Mac show.
I never forget
Boy,
when
nobody trying to come here and tell you. Boy, I'm coming to tell you today. Boy, I'm gonna pour Kool-Aid on the eyes and lips so they can't holler and they can't see. Boy,
yeah.
I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you.
Man, Bernie, that was good. I mean, I never forget Faison Love stated that he didn't like Bernie Mac at first because he felt like he was trying to take away. He was trying to impersonate Robin Harris, the late great Robin Harris, who was the Baby Kids from the Baby Kids.
Mm-hmm.
But he said as
Mm.
I got to know him, it was just like no, it was his voice. But man, that was special, man. It's a lot of stars in life, but there's nothing like a shooting star. And Bernie Mac was definitely a shooting star in comedy, man. And for you to be the headliner and you go last with all of those great comedians, because Steve Harvey was a star in his own right. D.L. Hughley was a star in his own right. He hosted not just Def Comedy Jam, but he hosted Comic View.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people, I don't think people understand this. With D.L. Hughley, you knew he was about to end his show. This is how you knew when he looked in the audience and said, "How you doing, man?" And you already knew he was about to start roasting
About to
people in
start
the
roasting
crowd.
people.
Yeah, so for you to be on that, then Cedric the Entertainer, if it wasn't for Bernie being on that show, he probably would have been the most funniest comedian on the show. For you to go last behind all of those great comedians who could be on Mount Rushmore. That's the thing about it. They call them the kings of comedy, but they could very well be on Mount Rushmore when you talk about DL, when you talk about Steve Harvey, when you talk about Cedric the Entertainer, when you talk about Bernie Mac. Those four guys by themselves can be Mount Rushmore comedy. When you think about the lanes that they opened up, the fact that they hosted the Apollo in the form of Steve Harvey. When you think about they all had their own sitcom shows. When you think about they all got their superstar from Def Comedy Jam. Uh, they all hosted Comedy Jam. They all hosted comedy. They hosted Comic View. They was able to do a lot of things. Sometimes I feel like I got old too early, too late, because I would have loved to have gone to one of them damn Comic View shows when they was going to Atlanta and stuff like that. By the time I got older, they was already not doing it no more, man. I want to go see Comic View, but Bernie Mac was definitely he was definitely him, and unfortunately he got taken away from us a little bit early. But the records, the stand up, all the things that he did will live forever. And for you to be the last guy to go on out of, like I said, those four guys could be on the Mount Rushmore of comedy. Those four guys can be on the Mount Rushmore of comedy because when they went places, they stood out. Cedric the Entertainer, he stood out. DL, he stood out. Steve Harvey, he stood out. But if you really want to laugh at something about Steve Harvey, go to that Godfrey interview and she said, I know she said, but if you really want to laugh about every time that Godfrey brings up, BRL can't even hold his head up. Every time that Godfrey brings up Steve Harvey, your ass is go bad. This ain't about Steve
Because
Harvey.
when you look at comedians and you just single out impersonations, Godfrey's impersonation of Steve Harvey is so goddamn accurate, bro.
Mhm.
This ain't about. I'm from Cleveland, y'all. I'm from Cleveland, y'all. See, this ain't about Steve
He does a
Harvey.
great Trump impersonation as well.
Godfrey's probably the best. I say between
Him and Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx, and Jay Farrell are probably the best three right now as far as like impersonation.
yeah. Well, you got to give it to Eric Spears as well. You know,
Yeah, Eric Spears is up there too.
Eric Spears is up there too, especially when he was on when he was impersonating
Shaq's.
Charles Barkley and Shaq. You know, when he the Philistines. Let me tell you something.
Did-
Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Kenny Cover,
Hey,
everybody know Kobe,
hey,
all the
Hey,
powerful.
hey,
speaking of Eric,
who does a hell of a Charles Barkley impersonation? Frank Caliendo.
Yeah,
yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
he
Speaking
does
of
Doug Ruden best too, man. You
yeah,
know, we got to
speaking of
get PFC. You got to get Kenny back on the show for one, so we can revisit the top comedians. Because that
speaking
was
of Eric Spears, real
He'll
quick.
still say Cat Williams is the GOAT.
yeah, he'll probably still say Cat Williams, but I think that'll be a good open discussion. And shout out to
Oh,
Hot Take Kenny, by the way, because Hot
oh,
Take
he
is
thinks
doing his
Cat
thing.
Williams is the GOAT stand up.
Yeah,
Yes.
he thinks he's the GOAT stand up. But I don't know. Like I stated, he's younger than us, so
Yeah,
he doesn't remember. It's one thing to look at it on YouTube. It's one thing to experience live and living. I remember the Eddie Murphy stand up, and I think a lot of times, to Kenny's defense, I will say, because he's younger than a lot of us, I think that he suffers from the same thing that I look at when I see Monique. When I see Monique, I don't see a comedian anymore. I see a megastar at this point. She has a Grammy. She's been on all types of movies. She had her own sitcom. She's a Grammy winning award. Sometimes when I look at Eddie Murphy, I forget that he was a stand-up comedian because he's been a movie star for so long. You know, same thing with Martin. The only person who you don't look at it, you say, well, he was. There's only a few that's kind of the roots are still kind of there. But to his defense, I'll say that. But I'll say that, like I said, there's a lot of there's a lot of other comedians that you really look at that are outside of us. I would say that Jeff Foxworthy. I really think that his reign was real, real good, man. Plus, he was a Braves fan, so I watched him a lot. Jeff Foxworthy. You got to think about Jerry Crowler. You got to think about Andrew Dice Clay, Gilbert Godfrey, Roseanne. Like I said, people don't even remember that Roseanne was a stand-up comedian. People don't remember that Whoopi Goldberg, she was a stand-up comedian. A lot
Ellen
of
DeGeneres.
yeah, people don't remember that those ladies and gentlemen were stand-up comedians before they got thrust into superstardom. And it's just like, okay, yeah, I remember, but it's just like I remember them more so as them being movie stars more than I do them being stand-up comedians. But
It
but
is.
I say that in a lot of the young guys' defense, they don't remember how, even with Chris Rock, they don't remember how, you know, how
how
raw
good
he
he
was.
was. How
Yeah,
yeah, how good he
Remember,
is good to
remember
stand
Never
up.
Scared?
you got
Yeah.
never kid.
That was my favorite one. I hope. All right, fellas. One last topic. Favorite Jaheim track. There's Ghetto Love, Anything, Just in Case, Put That Woman First. Even though it wasn't his song, but he was featured. Nelly's Come On Over to My Place. Jaheim back in them late '90s and early thousands, but anything for me with RL from Next on that track, I love that track because it's the type of song you may not get, you may not have all the money in the world, but you're so driven and determined to give your woman anything. You may not necessarily have the money, but you have the drive, the determination to get your woman whatever she wants.
Hmm.
And as well as other things that she would consider a lot more valuable. So I would say anything but Just in Case, especially with Maya Campbell back then in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Man. Oh, off subject real quick before I go. Hey, they have these little Birkin bag cakes that so now you can, give one to your girl and say, now you got a Birkin bag now. So that's one. They got these little Birkin bag, little cakes. She's like, baby, I got you a Birkin bag. You sit that little cake on there. I don't know if she'll cuss you out or I laugh, but you welcome to try. I might try that. I might try that next relationship. Baby, I got you a Birkin, then put that little cake on. But um, put that woman first. Could it be? I'm thinking that it's all about me. What could it be? And it explained a lot and he was absolutely right because we know when he took that dude his comeback, nobody really recognized him at a certain point. Uh, Anything, just like PSP said, I've changed
hmm
with him and Keisha Cole.
Mm.
That was good. If you really want me to be honest with you, his voice, I don't think the newer generation will recognize this person I'm about to say. If you really look at Jaheim, he's the modern day version of Alexander O'Neal, in my humble opinion.
I like that.
He's the modern day version of Alexander O'Neal. And if you don't know who Alexander O'Neal is, go to Saturday Love, go to If You Were Here Tonight, My Gift to You, a lot of songs. Go look up Alexander O'Neal, play Alexander O'Neal, and play some records by him, and then go listen to Jaheim, and you'll find out how similar their voice really are. And they both have strong, very, very deep voices, and their voice very, very distinctive. And just go back and listen, but he is the modern day version of Alexander O'Neal, man. Um, just in case, tonight, um, Ghetto Love, don't hate on us, we're fabulous.
Mhm.
I love that song, man.
I was waiting on somebody to say that one.
That was that was that was good. Back in my arms, back in my arms. It might not be smart, but you're still my lady, if only in my heart. So yeah, so that was good, man. But go back and listen to records of Alexander O'Neal, and then listen to some Jaheim records. You'll see how similar they really, really are, man. But I'll say that. But fabulous, my place. Could it be? I've changed. Just to name a few, man. Um, but yeah, you know what I like? I like the memes that come out with him and Too Short. Because when Shaheem be looking kind of rough when he let his beard grow out a little bit too much, they have Too Short, and then they have him. They have Too Short, and then they have when you put that woman first, and then they have. uh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh man, that's crazy. But
BRF.
you too busy laughing to you damn talk.
God, dog. Okay, all right. Now, okay, let's get all right. Time to get serious about Jaheim because Jaheim started like a new kind of like I'm gonna say a genre of R&B, but he kind of tapped into like a bit of a like harder side of R&B like kind of like more of like a rugged side. Like R&B is usually kind of like the softer kind of like melodic kind of like you know almost kind of like a getaway from life, if you kind of want to say, kind of like put your mind at ease. Jaheim brought up almost kind of like brought like a rugged kind of tougher side of it in, and like nowadays you see a lot that you see a lot of that more as far as like the R&B where the artists are like cutting actually cussing in their records and actually like not being afraid to kind of sing, say what's on their mind in on like R&B records nowadays. I feel like Jaheim kind of really kind of started that a little more and kind of brought it to the forefront. But even still, like his ballads are still like top tier. Like when you think about Put That Woman First, when you think about anything, when you think about Just in Case, when you think about Fabulous, when you think about like like I remember when Could It Be first came out, and it caught my attention from the jump because I'm like, wait a minute, this R&B singer talking like this in an R&B song, like the intro of it when you hear the album and you listen to the intro, like wait a minute, but then you hear him singing, it's just like okay, see you got me now. Um, but yeah, like just I think he made a lot of really really good records, but I think the impact he made a big one, but he I feel like there's more meat on the bone as far as what Jaheim could have did, what I felt like he should have did. But like the music that he made is just what he made, and just he's an amazing artist. And honestly, a guy like him, you want to see him. I think he's trying to get back into the game. He's making music again. You want him. He's one of those I want to see come back and really you know kind of remind everybody of what he was, and then just really kind of take it into like this generation here. So, but yeah, like he had a my favorite track is probably Could It Be, but hey, like Jaheim's he's definitely one of the more underrated, underappreciated. I with him making this music again, I want him to come back and really kind of put a stamp on what he had done before and kind of remind everybody how good he used to be and how good he honestly still is. Because I've heard him singing, I'm like, he ain't lost nothing. He just need to like, I'm ready for him to get back on and really show people what he was about.
There you go. Well, fellas, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP podcast. We had a hell of a show. A lot of lives, a lot of great sports takes, man. Um, Tell them where to follow you at, man.
I'll
Oh,
kick it
okay.
off. I'll kick it off. As always, BRS Sports is the TikTok handle. Um, I'm definitely gonna get back into making some content. I know I do kind of want to do some WBC stuff for the World Baseball Classic going on with baseball season coming up. I'm gonna get into that. I actually do want to start doing some basketball stuff, particularly with the season winding down, going into the playoffs. Um, and it's and just oh, and I definitely be on the lookout. We do have a new episode UGSP tomorrow night, so definitely be on the lookout for that as well. Shout out to Big Homie Flash. I've seen him post some IGs like I don't his shout out to him and his daughter. His daughter's kicking butt in hockey, so
Yes.
definitely shout her out. Um, but yeah, BR Sports TikTok handle. My link tree is in the bio. You'll find my IG, my X slash Twitter, Facebook page. I got a Discord as well. I got a live link in the link tree. Definitely click the Discord if you want to join up as well. It's always a pleasure to get on here. I mean, this is like my first matinee special, if you want to call it that, on Sports PSP podcast. It's
Mm-hmm.
been a blast. I've had a ton of fun. I ain't laughed this hard in a minute, and I definitely need it. I definitely needed it. Had some stuff, life's been life for me, but I needed a show like this. I needed something to kind of like, remind us what it's about at the end of the day. Because when you lose loved ones, they want you to keep striving. They want you to push forward. Life don't stop just because they're not here anymore, and they would tell you that. So you always got to remember to keep your best foot forward and keep pushing forward and keep doing your thing. And your topic not thought about is a topic not thought about. Always a pleasure to share the stage and the spotlight with y'all two brothers. I love y'all both. Appreciate y'all support y'all showing me, and We definitely gonna keep this thing pushing. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to everybody in the pod and grind. We gonna keep this bad boy going. So shout out to everybody.
Absolutely. Big fella.
I have not went off of my camera so many times in the damn show because I was so busy laughing. laughing. Oh man, what a good way to start off the week, man. So good way to start off a Sunday with a hell of a podcast, a lot of good laughs with some great folks. The only thing that was missing was the barbecue and the alcohol. So that was just the thing, man. So like I said, man, them Birkin bag cakes come out, man. Give your girl one of them. You got a Birkin bag, so go ahead and give her one. You know, she might enjoy it. It's made out of ice cream, caramel, all that stuff, little crust and shit. So, but on a serious note, always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be here, man. This is where it's at, man. It's kind of like coming to the club every Friday, and it's just like get ready to laugh, get ready to drink, get ready to have a good old time, man. It's kind of like the disco closing when the show ends because it's like, man, gotta wait the next week in order to get back to it. Man, uh, it's March. The year's not over, but I will say this: be careful about what you're doing, the seeds that you're planting, and everything that you are just buying into. All right, don't be buying into everything that you see. Believe half of what you hear and none of what you see. I will say that, and be mindful of what you're following nowadays, including myself. So be mindful and make sure that you follow the right things. All right, because there's a lot of things out here that we are looking at and we're looking for something to follow so bad that we'll be willing to follow anything in order to bring some type of stability to our lives. Remember what it says in the word of Revelations.
Absolutely. Fellas, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all week. Again, happy Women's Month. By the way, March tomorrow will be March 9th, will be the 29th anniversary of the death of the late great the notorious B.I.G. Rest his soul. So thank you, Biggie, for all of your great music and inspiration. Shout out to Mama PSP. Shout out to D. Shout out to Angie. Shout out to Ace. Shout out to Mama Champ. BRF, everyone. The list goes on and on. We're going to continue to keep going. We'll see you this upcoming Friday on the Sports PSP podcast, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A lot of things to discuss regarding football, basketball, and so much more. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we is out. Peace.